So as I'm sure you've already seen, the USA invaded Venezuela last night, both bombing the country in 4 or 5 separate states. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was kidnapped by them, and he's now being brought to New York City to face charges for a bunch of totally ridiculous things that are clearly made up. Like, for example, possessions of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and narco-terrorism conspiracy charges. Because as we all know, as the president of a foreign country, you're not allowed to possess machine guns or you're violating American law. Now,
I'm pretty curious about what Babinot's takes on
oil. It's been 25 years of American imperialism in Venezuela, all because
you've already seen Hassan just embarrass himself again. Like, it sucks to say that as a Hassan fan.
This is the culmination of 25
that
years
sucks
of
for him,
American
man.
hostility,
Literally, just like right when he predicted.
American strangling of Venezuela, of its people, of its economy, all because for the first time in its history, it had a government that wasn't simply giving the Americans
I'm going back to
everything
fight the
they
thing.
wanted with the coming of Hugo Chavez. Well, it seems that now they may be getting that. Now take everything from this point onwards as very preliminary, as something of a speculation, because I don't know what happened yet, you don't know what happened yet, no one really understands what exactly has happened yet, the dust is still clearing.
Yeah, I'll probably need a map.
There is no clear evidence as I film this regarding the extent of the damage done, regarding how many people have died and whether they were military members or civilians. The Americans have claimed that no Americans died, and in fact there was only minor injuries and only one helicopter received minor damage, which
that is right, okay. I remember right.
So I'm sure you've seen a lot of the footage that's been circulating of American helicopters just sort of flying around Caracas with free rein, with very little return fire against them, barely even any small arms fire being heard in the background. It all kind of reeks, and it especially reeks because of something that Trump said. Trump said that the vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, is willing to work with the US. Trump said that she had expressed her willingness to do whatever the US asks. Trump also said regarding the opposition, the Venezuelan opposition, who up until now he seemed to have been supporting, that he's basically not going to make them leaders. He said about Maria Corina Machado, the
he's just giving it to Pete.
That it would be very tough for her to be the leader, and that he hasn't spoken to her, and that though she's a very nice woman, she doesn't have the support within or the respect of the country. This is extremely fishy, isn't it? What the fuck happened here? There's also videos that have come out, for example, of damage in Venezuela after these strikes at some of the military bases that were attacked, and it almost looks token. It almost doesn't look that serious. Like I saw an article in the Venezuelan newspaper El Nacional, which now I of course can't find, that said that in at least some of the bases that were attacked, perhaps all of them, don't really know, obviously I'm speculating here, as I said, this is all preliminary, there were almost no personnel because the troops had been sent home for the New Year's festivities. That seems suspicious, right? We look at this video here from Venezuelan state TV. They sent a car out to assess the damage at one of the military barracks that had been attacked.
Muy atentos porque les vamos a mostrar las imágenes del punto donde ocurrió el ataque. Vamos a parar el vehículo.
We have a military base with some bombed out buses, civilian-looking buses too. These must be like transports to get the troops to and from work or something. There is one single bombed out APC that looks like it was parked. Maybe not, I don't know, you guys who are more military minded can tell me if this looks like any of this stuff was in action or not.
Las imágenes del ataque. Actualmente las reacciones internacionales son de completo agravio y estupor. Una unidad que...
So we have some buses with destroyed windows, a bombed out APC.
I don't think I've done this yet.
Right next to these buses that seem to be in perfect condition, like that car right there on the right of the screen. The windows were destroyed, probably from the shockwave of the explosions, but the building wasn't actually directly hit.
Fue destruida, en este caso, un autobús rojo.
This bus looks like it was more substantially hit.
Tenemos otra unidad que también fue destruida.
It's just buses.
Podemos ver la reja. Esto que ustedes ven aquí son las esquirlas, producto de la deflagración.
Yeah, I was betting on and not spells.
Tenemos un poste que fue arrancado de cuajo, precisamente por este fenómeno que les estamos comentando de las esquirlas de los explosivos que fueron utilizados en la mañana. Hay cuerpos de seguridad que están presentes. Un poco más atrás tenemos funcionarios militares que nos están haciendo señas. Obviamente ellos están...
It looks like there are two people in this base who this guy is able to see.
Están custodiando el perímetro, están haciendo su trabajo si se quiere. Pero bueno, lo que podemos reportar es esto. Estamos ofreciendo en vivo y en directo las imágenes de lo que fue el ataque.
There are weirdly very little images of damage like this that have come out so far. You're probably going to be seeing more of them throughout the day, maybe tomorrow. There is, from what I've been able to find, zero assessment of the casualties. Anything like that. I have no idea how many people died, no idea how many civilians died. The only comment that I've seen on this came from Delcy Rodriguez, where she said in a statement that civilians and military members have died, without giving a number, without giving any real concrete information. But this was quite a while ago now. This was like 7-8 hours ago. Additionally, the only video that I have been able to find, again, I could be wrong here, the only clips that I've seen of Venezuelan troops or any sort of Venezuelan military presence were not actually going towards the fight with the Americans or anything. They were all just doing crowd control on Venezuelans. Like, I saw one clip, this one right here, which is the only one that I've seen of Venezuelan troops. There's also another one of a random APC going through the street very slowly. It's not even worth showing. And they are just like, they just seem to be telling random civilians to go inside. Like, they stop this person on a motorcycle and then just seem to leave them there.
Mira. Mira. Ay, papi, te bien chorreado.
I'm gonna die now.
They just seem to be stopping civilians and telling them to fucking go home or something. They seem to be more directed at getting people
desperate
to seek shelter than actually fighting the Americans. Like, this is a crowd control operation. This isn't a military resistance.
Mira.
Yeah, they just tell the guy on the motorcycle, get the fuck out of here, and he goes. They tell the cars to get out of there, and they go.
Bajando a la gente. Mira. Mira, parando carros. Bueno, me imagino que están defendiendo la posición, pero no les va a durar mucho. No, van a ir por ellos, van a ir por ellos. Mira esto.
Damn it!
Now, there's something very fishy about all
Damn
of
it!
this.
Damn it! No!
Something doesn't add up. Even if the US had literally perfectly managed to airstrike all of Venezuela's air defenses. Now, I'm not going to say Venezuela had a strong military or has a strong military or had strong air defense, because it doesn't. Venezuela's a poor South American country. South American countries already don't have strong militaries. That's because pretty much none of them expect any significant war. The only significant war that ever happens in South America is like rebel groups fighting against the government.
And that's not the same thing as
that's
my bad.
Conventional invasion by a major world power. So the Venezuelan military obviously was going to be completely unequipped and ill-prepared to actually fight against an invasion of a country that can deploy more planes and helicopters against it than it has any sorts of military vehicles total. Nonetheless, it really does seem like there was practically zero resistance. And there was practically zero resistance in such a coordinated way that it's very fishy. Almost like a stand-down order was given. Almost like this might have been a show of some sort, especially in light of Trump just being so willing to work with the vice president and seemingly being happy to keep the current government in power just without Maduro. And we have to consider this in light of reports that were coming out a month or two ago that Maduro was offering to leave for exile in Cuba or some other country on the condition that Vice President Delcy Rodriguez be allowed to take power and that the US not invade. So in light of that, I think there could be a real possibility here, even though it sounds insane, that all of this was agreed upon beforehand. Because the outcome of this appears to be Delcy Rodriguez running a government that complies with Trump's demand to give Venezuelan oil to the USA, and him getting his win over Maduro, being allowed to just take him and have a show trial where he gets convicted of a bunch of shit that he never did, along with a military operation that gets to be framed as super successful, which Americans are going to support because, let's be real, most of them are uncritical imperialist dumbasses who are easily swayed by this sort of shit. It's all just too perfect, right? Like, not a single American loss, not one dead American, very little resistance. Trump weirdly being very nice towards the remnants of Maduro's government. They didn't attack anyone else in Maduro's government. They didn't kill the defense minister. They didn't kill the VP. They didn't kill the interior minister. They didn't do anything to them. They just flew in straight from Maduro, attacked what seems to have been largely empty military bases, did some damage, some serious damage to some of them, and token damage to others, as we saw in that video that I showed earlier, and got Maduro out with basically zero real resistance. Perhaps his own presidential guards fired on American troops, probably the only ones who really did anything, and then he was taken. So, I don't know, this just reeks. It reeks, especially with Trump seemingly abandoning the Venezuelan opposition all of a sudden. It really just seems like that this was like, or might have been either a betrayal by Delcy Rodriguez and the rest of the Venezuelan government of Maduro, or Maduro agreed to this in exchange for the US not invading Venezuela. And most of the Venezuelan military was simply stood down. The military installations were largely empty of troops under the excuse of there being, you know, New Year's Eve or whatever. And it is all an extremely bizarre situation. Nonetheless, if you're American, you should have been doing stuff about this whole fucking time, right? I made a video.
You should have taken the thorns and I might go. No, is it worth going back that far? No, I'm just gonna do it.
It's not serious. Even if they're just bluffing, you still have to get out and protest. You still have to, not even protest, do more than that. Please do something. I beg you. I have zero faith in Americans at this point, man. People have been, like, more outraged at stuff like David Chappelle performing in Saudi Arabia than they have been at this. People have been more interested in Zoran Ramdani's wife's latest outfit than they have been in this. You know, the USA is hosting the World Cup this year, as they have been threatening to invade Venezuela.
God, I hate this dude.
Just now, actually seem to have invaded Venezuela, and there's zero resistance to anything. What is happening? China have said
this
nothing.
is so fucking annoying.
Russia,
like, I'm sorry,
gave, like, a stern announcement, but that's obviously not going to actually help. Most countries in the world have said nothing about this. Like, the most significant country that said something against this was Brazil. And no one can fucking denounce this without adding on some bullshit about, oh, but Maduro was authoritarian or some shit. Who gives a shit he's a fucking authoritarian? Have you guys learned anything from Iraq? Saddam was 1,000,000,000 times worse than Maduro. Even in, like, the opposition's worst nightmares. And look what happened there. Sometimes a shit leader is better than your country literally being fucking colonized and having its resources stolen by the United States of America. When will you guys learn this shit? And regardless...
Oh my god, I hate this. I literally fucking hate this, dude. I hate it. I hate it. This is so fucking annoying.
American interference, American meddling, America doing everything...
I should have taken the spin.
You know,
I tried to pick a something, but I don't want to waste.
All of that led to precisely this.
So
look, I don't have
I'm gonna have to fucking heal.
Here. You don't either. No one does yet. I am hoping that tomorrow there'll be more information so that I can talk about this in more depth. I don't really have much to recommend you aside from you actually watch Venezuelan media, just because they are the ones who are going to have the first images of all of this stuff.
Come on.
I'll post it to social media first. Like Telesur, for example. Telesur has a 24/7 news live stream in Spanish and English as well. So the Spanish one is much better, I think. But hopefully tomorrow there's more information regarding what exactly happened here, so we can get a clearer picture. But, well, if you were American, you should have been trying to do something about this beforehand, but you should definitely be trying to do something now, let me tell you. I mean, I don't really expect Americans to do anything. Sadly, the reality of the world is that the situation that the world is in right now is worse than ever before. It's more and more impossible due to the digital age, due to things like drones, and the increasing dominance and precision of air power in general, for smaller, poorer countries to really fight back against the large militaries of the world anymore. The only reason why Ukraine could is because they already had 10 years of experience beforehand, and they are supplied and funded by all of the richest countries in the world. Thus, they have most of the same equipment that they're fighting. So even if Venezuela did fight back here, you know, they probably still wouldn't have had much of a chance, though perhaps the whole show of, like, going in and just getting Maduro and going out wouldn't have been able to have been carried out. But still, a US attack on Caracas and an invasion wouldn't go well for Venezuela, and there are very few countries in the world that could withstand such an attack at this point. Most of them are the heavily militarized ones, like Ukraine, like Iran, for example, and they would still be absurdly disastrous for their population.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened here. I think it's possible that Maduro was either betrayed or decided to give himself up to avoid an invasion, and, you know, the U.S. government.
Oh, what the fuck? I didn't mean the wrong button.
If I lived in Havana and I was in government, I'd be concerned. We want to help out the people of Cuba. Well,
okay, I think I do need long nail. That's for
there, so there might not be quite as much of an incentive for them to attack Cuba. It doesn't really have any resources the U.S. wants that badly. But hey, if you're American, the fact that these people are even saying these things, even thinking about
I can probably just go to
should be cause for there to be millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of you in the streets. It should be cause for every single arms company in your country to be fearful and to have to hire dozens of extra security guards for all of their facilities. Please do something, I beg you. You have the most power to fight this stuff, even more so in the people in the targeted countries. And every time you don't do it, as a collective you are spitting on the people in the countries that your government attacks endlessly. Not to speak of the fucking troops. Imagine you're an American soldier. You voluntarily join the military, and you do this shit, and we're supposed to believe that you're a poor little victim. Hopefully I'll have more information to give you tomorrow.
shit.
Let's do this, Dave Rubin, and then we'll take some phone calls.
Nasty guy.
This is the thing about Dave Rubin, and this is the analogy that I've come up with. So Dave Rubin has been walking on eggshells for quite some time, because when he was on the Blaze, people didn't necessarily you would talk about being a gay man, but I don't think he wouldn't put it out in front, and he was it was, effective insofar as, even the gay guy, has a problem with this. And, but then, he made the mistake of thinking that, despite the fact that his buddy, Ben Shapiro, would not have attended his wedding and would be nervous about inviting him over for dinner with his husband.
Good friends.
He thought, I know, my audience will love the fact that I'm becoming a dad. And my husband and I are having 2 kids through a surrogate.
No, you're supposed to not associate yourself with children to serve your conservative audience's needs. This is so far. This is such a long, so long ago. All sorts of stuff.
In fact, they thought it was heresy, literally. And so he went all in on DeSantis.
Yep, I was gonna say, don't forget the DeSantis part of the being bucked.
He went all in on DeSantis and was convinced and was telling his audience this is the guy to watch. I've got a super feeling about this, and you know how my feelings go.
They want Trump. They don't want to go against Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, he bet on the wrong horse and his hooves.
Oh my gosh. But in a way that is almost catastrophic. I don't think there's ever been a candidate that has had this sort of much of a,
he was doing campaign events.
Usually when there's a bunch of people running, it's hard to be the loser. That's the thing about why, so many people jumped into the race, because if there's so many people in the race, you're not the loser. There's just a winner and there's no loser. Who lost the 2016 race against Trump? Maybe you could say Jeb Bush, but really, so many people lost. There's no one loser. The loser in this campaign is not going to be Nikki Haley. The loser is Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, tripping over his own feet.
Totally. And so Dave Rubin is walking on eggshells. He doesn't want to remind anybody of...
Damn it!
That
oh, God!
He's part of the culture war, and he's doing something that is against
Every time
God.
I get too low, I start panicking and just trying to heal.
That would,
do the same shit Mel did a lot.
Family values, or any of that part of the culture.
Yeah, in any
And
soul
he doesn't want
really.
to talk about anything that's too, like, you know, political pontificating because he just, like, made a catastrophic failed bet.
His fields for commentary are really narrowing down. Like, what is he going to talk about at this point?
What is he going to talk about? Well,
I could. This would be a lot easier.
Imagine if you owned a dog and you kept it in your apartment in New York City, and then one day you had the opportunity to go out into the country and take its leash off. And this I give you as Dave Rubin.
Yeah, they're racism zoomies.
Exactly.
Until he appears like, he appears as a pattern if he just always.
I even bulleted it out.
Like I feel like I might be like running around like an idiot dog.
He's basically
follows like a specific pattern.
Terrorist in the government. I'm sorry, I don't know how to tell you any other way. She's here to destroy America. She gave a big speech over the weekend that's now catching fire across the internet. Of course, the other big thing is.
We're going to skip forward because we're going to get to this blockbuster. We've got a terrorist.
He's really reinventing the wheel here, calling Ilhan Omar a terrorist.
Now, let's be clear. When did this video come out? Before or after? Oh, last week.
Yeah.
And this is based upon the what we now know is the false translation of a speech she gave. Now, even if the speech was real, we have to believe that she is a sleeper cell for Somalia. In the government, because you know Somalia's influence on the U.S. is just
Joe Biden marches for Somalia.
Crazy.
I don't jump this soon enough whenever I do that. I keep thinking I can dash a lot later.
SAPAC
I dash so soon.
against races.
Don't have any grace.
Dollars going against people too against Somalia.
Yeah, exactly. But here we go.
And that orange man, and then as I am one to do, I will give you some hope at the end of the show. So let's just dive right in. This speech is completely bananas. There are many clips of it.
I didn't even get him to the
I'm going to show you one portion of her talking. But Ilhan Omar was given a speech at a Somalian event, and here she is. I don't even want to color this. Just listen to what she says. Of course, this is going to be in, you're going to have to read the translation. Here we go.
Oh,
so yeah, we can skip over the false translation that he plays there.
Yes, this is all fake translation.
And then
where do we make sure you cue up the
real
correction? No, the correction that he gives too. I want to play that.
Oh,
okay, yeah,
must be a better way to
I'll
time.
get on that. Look,
Gets by. I can. And then hit him from behind, hopefully.
Language, isn't it? For those of you who don't speak Somalian, she basically was saying that she is in Congress to defend the interests of
trails me from
Somalia,
okay, I'm gonna switch out.
that the United States will do things for Somalia first. That's kind of the bumper sticker version. It continued. I mean, it's
pause it. Like, do you know how do you know how motivated your reasoning has to be to be like, wait, like not to have no skepticism aside from like, ugh, what a disgusting language. I meant it's a great sounding language.
But the sentiment is what I'm objecting to.
But the idea of like, she's admitted that she's in Congress to do the bidding of Somalia is shocking. Let's be clear. I mean, she was a refugee.
A lot planned for today, but right as we were preparing, John Fetterman fell down outside of Brian Pumper's house. He was collaborating with Brian Pumper, and he collapsed. His staff says that they medevaced him like Homer Simpson out of the canyon to Walter Reed or something, and they dropped him down the canyon.
Yes, a big dumb oaf. Breaking as the show begins, a big dumb oaf has fallen down and cracked his bonds once again. Folks, it's Thursday, November 13th. In just a little bit, Felix and I will be talking to Molly Lambert about her new podcast series on Jenna Jameson and the world of pornography. But holy shit, we have way too much to talk about today because the news this week has been insane. Starting, of course, with John Fetterman falling down and cracking his big dumb fucking head once again. But, like, Felix, obviously, like, we were going to begin today's show talking about the Democrats' capitulation on the ending the longest government shutdown and what that portends. But, like, I would like to contrast that, like the Democrats once again playing the Washington Generals to the Harlem Globetrotters, in the context of what is currently going down regarding the House Oversight Committee's release of about 20,000 of Jeffrey Epstein's emails. I would just like to say at the top of the show here, my thoughts go to our good friend and colleague, Matt Christman thought,
damn it.
undefeated. Because when you see these, I mean, I thought the birthday cards were bad enough. And my question is, how much more of this shit can we take? Or how much more of this can Donald Trump take? Because, like, I know I'm going to be eating my words.
Kind of dashed through him as a dangerous if he's
time, but, like, Felix.
But no, when I dashed through him during,
my brain is beginning to form around the thought of, can Donald Trump possibly survive this? Because these emails are so brazen and so ridiculous that it is just like, I don't even know where to go. I mean, where do you want to start with this one, Felix? Because, like, it's just the hits just keep coming.
Don't want this.
Okay, so
I don't want to try to do spells for that.
First of all, we know they're authentic because Jeffrey Epstein types like an idiot.
It's amazing.
He cannot spell. He cannot spell. He punctuates shit all wrong. That's how you know this is all 100% real.
I haven't tried that.
So the first thing that caught people's eyes was Trump is that dog that hasn't barked yet, which that is someone of a 90 IQ trying to sound like a James Ellroy character, but very interesting. That was obviously the first thing, but I would say the first thing that caught my attention after that was the thing about Trump walking into a glass door because he was gawking at a swimming pool full of 15-year-olds.
This is from Jeffrey Epstein to Landon Thomas Jr., who was a financial reporter at the New York Times, who, while this was going on, was a journalist from the New York Times was alerting Jeffrey Epstein and warning him about other journalists
can move freely. How freely?
His life and crimes, and saying, "Don't worry, I've been covering for you. I've told everyone you're a great guy." That's insane. This is what Jeffrey Epstein writes to, once again, New York Times financial reporter Landon Thomas Jr. Read the Uz feed regarding my airplane logs and Hawaiian Tropic contest. Have them ask my houseman about Donad, written in his shitty typing, about Donad almost walking through a door.
Okay, no, I'm not going to overcomplicate this right now.
On the glass as young women were swimming in the pool, and he was so focused he walked straight into the door. I said it before, I'll say it now. My man is moving like the rapist Three Stooges.
Yeah. No, yeah. This is, yeah. He is Mr. Bean, directed by Abel Ferrara. Truly horrifying. I mean,
I might want that too instead of long nail then.
You know, can he survive this? How can he survive this?
No, I need long nail.
That remains to be seen. It wouldn't surprise me, right, if there is like, it turns out there is like video. There are images. And one way or the other, like they they have an easy out. Like, oh, he had a stroke, he had a heart attack. But I do think that like the 25-30% of this country that would be with him no matter what, like the same people who were with Bush in 2008, this is not a deal breaker for them because, I mean, those people, they've always thought it's okay for like a 50-year-old to fuck a 14-year-old, They don't consider that pedophilia.
They're already preparing that argument, Felix.
But, it could get to a point where it's like, okay, well, you have those people, but if no one if even like fucking Senator Wojcicki, Nancy Mace, does not want to be seen with this guy, and it becomes impossible to govern, then I am interested to see what happens.
Well, I mean, he's already kind of like lost control of the MAGA coalition. He was making personal appeals to like Lauren Boebert the other day to get her to like, hold her vote back from further releasing these files, which they have not agreed to. And I think we're getting to the point where, like, they've delayed the seating of that Democratic the congresswoman in the special election result. Like, they've delayed a possibility of this vote long enough. But we're getting to the point where, like, it's going to pass, and he's going to be put in the position of having to veto it.
Well, she did get sworn in. She did get sworn in, and I mean, I really do not want to give the Democrats any credit here. But like, I could see someone arguing that their calculation was that like these would be more damaging, but to
am I going the
you would
wrong
have-
way?
It's like it does seem like these could have come out anyway, you know, regardless if the government was in session or not. But I don't know. Every step of the way, I think this would have been damaging to him.
Oh, I went way too far, didn't I?
But he handled it just about like the worst he possibly could have in the lead up. Like he did everything you would do in order to indicate that there is like horrifically damaging shit in there. There is a universe where he goes, I don't care what's in there. You know, we had a falling out and he probably lied about me. And between that and like democratic incompetence, that's enough for like 45% of people not to give a shit, you know? It would probably galvanize Democrats and Democratic sympathetic independents, but I could see it playing out like that because
this is where what's his face is, right? Okay, yeah, I'm right.
One would have thought that his government arresting and then killing Epstein would have been a deal breaker, but he became president again after that. But this go around, he pretty much from the get-go was like, don't release those fake videos of me having sex with children that I didn't even enjoy that much.
And, you know, like, I talk about, like, that, like, if you adopt, like, the most conspiratorial style of sort of understanding or like, whatever you imagine about how the U.S. government and, like, the heights of financial, academic, Silicon Valley, all of it works, like, you would be vindicated almost 100% of the time. And, like, on top of that, like,
no, I'm like right there.
Talked about, because it's like it's based on other publicly available documents, but like right before this latest tranche of emails was released, I gotta give a shout out to Dropsite and Ryan Grimm, because they've had a series of stories leading up to this, which should prove beyond any shadow of a doubt whatsoever that Jeffrey Epstein was at the very least a high-level Mossad asset, in that, like, he had a Mossad agent staying at his house in New York for weeks at a time. He was arranging wire transfers for Israeli spies. He was the go-between that created a back channel to the government of Russia for Israel during the Syrian civil war. There was, like, contacts between him and the Mongolian government that he put in charge of Israel. It's like, the things that we've implied or said on this show, which should be obvious to anyone who's, like, even glanced at this story, it's crazy to just have it be outright confirmed at the level that these emails and that the drip drop of
literally nothing is happening about it. That's the craziest part about all this. It's just like all out in the open and nothing is happening.
So there was a lot of good stuff well, not good stuff, but pretty telling tranches in that Dropsite report. I thought that the one that caught my eye the most was, did you see that one where it was the spy who was always with Ehud Barak when he would go to Epstein's house? It was about how he needed to pick up.
You can parry in this. Parry the little projectile. I just learned you can parry with a tab.
That were being kept at a hotel somewhere in Midtown, and that he would return the headphones and give the money back to Epstein. Clearly, like, this is a code. There were other... I don't think this was part of the Dropsite tranche, but more the tranche released by the House Oversight Committee. But the one that involved Bannon, where they talk about how Epstein says he's giving Bannon, like, $5,000 in Visa gift cards for his birthday. This was set in March, and Bannon's birthday is in November, I think. But there was clearly a lot of, like, I mean, I would assume, like, this is just outright trafficking. They're just, like, moving traffic girls around. But we really, if not that, like, money laundering or fucking
Jesus
something.
Christ.
Well, I mean, that is the funny thing, is to think about, like, if you could have, like, shown these emails to someone who was obsessed with, like, Pizzagate and QAnon back in, like, 2017, I mean, obviously, like, there's the intimations of, like, they're speaking in code. But, like, to me, the most amazing thing about these emails is that there is no compunction whatsoever among these guys. Because, like, it's all just guys, like, emailing Jeffrey Epstein on email being like, had a great weekend, winking emoji. And then, like, continuing to retain his services as a, quote, financial advisor. Years past him pleading guilty to solicitation of a minor for the purposes of sex. And one of the guys who was, like, basically best friends with him up until he, killed himself, is fucking Larry Summers from Harvard. The emails between him and Larry Summers are incredible. I'm just gonna read here. Like, okay,
Yeah.
this is Larry Summers' email to Jeffrey Epstein from 2017. SoftBank deputy guy I liked and seemed aware and honest, San. Lots of slathering to Saudis. I yipped about inclusion. I observed that half the IQ in the world was possessed by women, without mentioning they are more than 51% of the population. Mnuchin plumbs new depths. War seems more likely than I used to think. DJT is the world's luckiest guy in terms of opposition, economy, etc. Still think his world will collapse. I'm trying to figure out why American elite think if you murder your baby by beating and abandonment, it must be irrelevant to your admission to Harvard, but hit on a few women 10 years ago and you can't work at a network or a think tank. Do not repeat this insight. They're just sending emails about this with the disclaimer, do not repeat or share. And I love that he says, DJT is the world's luckiest guy in terms of opposition.
You mean
like,
you?
You? Like, you're the guy that every Democratic fucking politician defers to over and over again. And, like, you're best friends with the sex trafficking guy that also pimps out girls to Donald Trump. So, yeah, he's damn right he's lucky in his opposition.
I mean, this goes to something that I saw people posting your tweet from about 6 or 7 years ago where you said, pedophiles use this to signal to each other. Watch out for this on Twitter. It's the globe emoji.
Yeah.
No one has ever been more vindicated because, like, there is so much, like, skeevy, awful shit in the Summers emails. Namely, Summers' wife getting, like, $500,000 from Epstein for whatever stupid thing she has at Harvard, while Summers basically begs Epstein to source him some pussy.
I think I forgot.
But
been too long.
The parts that go with, like, Epstein's actual beliefs.
Oh wait, is that it?
Literally third way shit. It's like
Larry Summers is his favorite guy. Epstein, like, one of his most earnest moments in this entire tranche of data is when he's sharing the no labels presidential roadmap.
No idea what's happening.
For 2020. Like, that is like he goes, okay, look, obviously I am a evil pimp who traffics 15-year-olds, wheels and deals for politicians, and I'm a lifelong Mossad agent. But this no label shit, this is what it's all for. This is what I care about.
The other email between Summers and Epstein was great. Is that Summers writes to Epstein, like, seeking his advice on how to, like, do alpha kino to a young woman he's trying to seduce.
Oh, God.
And then he says, so this is March 16th, 2019. This is like a couple months. This is like 5 months before he was fucking murdered in prison. Larry Summers writes, we talked on phone, then I can't talk later. Didn't think I can talk tomorrow. I said, what are you up to?
Getting way
She
too
said,
impatient.
I'm busy. I said,
Jesus
awfully
Christ.
coy you are. And then I said, did you really rearrange the weekend we were going to be together because guy number 3 was coming? She said, no, his schedule changed after we changed our plans. I said, okay, I got to go. Call me when you feel like it. Tone was not of good feeling. I didn't want to be in a gift-giving competition while being the friend without benefits. Dude, you are in your 60s.
Yeah,
and you're talking about being in the friend zone? You are like one of the most powerful guys in the United States, and you're like, but the girl I'm trying to fuck canceled plans on me to see her other boyfriend. Oh, I'm tired of being the friend without benefits. Epstein's response to him was, she's smart, making you pay for past errors. Ignore the daddy. I'm going to go out with a motorcycle guy. You reacted well. Annoyed shows caring. No whining showed strength.
like he's Pei Mei from Kill Bill. All of this is great. First of all, Larry Summers saying to this hapless woman, am I in your roster? Like, what able-bodied woman, what woman who has like transportation and is at least of an age where she can rent a car, she has a roster that Larry Summers is a member of? Like that, like when she's home for Thanksgiving and she's like, I want some dick. Who's desperate enough that they'll answer my text?
Damn, I'm so
text
fucked.
at 3 a.m. Larry Summers.
Oh my God,
Why?
Why?
But it's also, this is the most sympathetic that Epstein comes off pretty much ever, because everyone can relate to him in this position where he's trying to do like whatever evil thing. He's playing Call of Duty, and his most annoying friend is like, hey, can I talk to you about my situationship?
Just another email here from Epstein.
Oh, fuck. It's over. It's over for me.
Andre Serrano says, Jeffrey, I was prepared to vote against Donald Trump for all the right reasons, but I'm so disgusted by the outrage over grab them by the pussy that I may give him...
I just have to keep doing this forever.
I'm sure Bill C said things too.
This is the greatest voter in human history. Yeah. He got polarized into voting for Trump by the Access Hollywood tape. This is incredible.
But like, what I'm gonna say, you know, I don't feel too vindicated by this, because like anyone with half a brain could have made like the same conclusion. But, like, we see.
I remember how I
like,
beat the bots like originally.
Like
if I had made like a soul build or something.
The reason it's taken this long, and like that there is still a reticence here, is that like obviously the Democratic
this is really
Party,
fucking
from, like Bill Clinton and Larry Summers on down, is deeply implicated in this. But it's not just that. It is also like the commanding heights of academia, Silicon Valley, and the entire American meritocracy, which seems to be populated entirely by fucking wretched losers who need a billionaire's pimp help to fucking talk to or even meet women. Phil, did you see the one email to him? I forget what guy it is, but there was this one guy and he was emailing Jeffrey, and he goes, Jeffrey, please help. I need to know. Is she a hooker?
Yeah. Like, one of the most illustrative emails for me is someone term searched Ricky Gervais.
Oh, come on.
And buried deep in these like thousands of emails that they're either coded discussions of money laundering, Israeli influence ops, blackmailing, Larry Summers begging for pussy. There's this one email where he's talking about like it's really weird. It's like a pitch document. And it's like a show that bridges that seeks to explore creativity in science and arts, and he lists out like 16 potential episodes of this show that never came to be. Which, thank God, it sounded horrible, but the people involved.
I still can't tell if there's a pattern to it or not, or if he just goes away from me as much as he can.
Ricky Gervais talking to Steven Pinker.
Yeah.
like it is the greatest collection of sort of like
one of them was
sort of middle
my favorite was Sarah Silverman and Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman. Woody Allen talks about the human condition with linguist Noam Chomsky.
This is the greatest indictment of like America's extreme middle-brow thinkers.
Yeah.
No one is obviously the Teals, Trumps, bandits of the world heavily implicated, but the rank and file of this sex trafficking operation seems to be airport novelists. But it really is like every middle-brow thinker in America was knee deep in this shit. But yeah, it is hard to feel vindicated because I think a year ago Peter Thiel was on Joe Rogan's podcast saying, "Oh, I actually had dinner with him in like 2014," and nothing fucking these people will say it openly.
Felix, my favorite
Peter Thiel,
one of these,
the guy who kills his boyfriends, and just nothing.
My favorite one of these pairings of thinkers is actress Andie MacDowell and evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins. It's like, this is what I mean about like.
I keep running right into it. What am I doing?
So like just middlebrow American like boomer like brain rot, but like you know, I know the phrase "the banality of evil" gets tossed around quite a bit, but like. Just like the ease with which, like, musing about a TV show in which fucking Sarah Silverman would talk to Paul Krugman, being underwritten by, like, just, it is rape and blackmail all the way down. All the way down. At every fucking level. And, like, you know, Felix, you brought
I'm
this up
so
in the past,
fucking
like,
I'm
all these
losing
guys
heart, man.
who kept paying him
That's
millions
actually
of
going pretty
dollars
well.
every year
just
for his
totally.
financial advice after he'd been gotten a sweetheart deal and done jail time for soliciting a teenager for sex. They're like, oh, his financial advice and tax planning was just so indispensable. You know what's one thing that's not in any of these emails? Any financial advice at all.
I mean, that has always been the most insulting fucking thing in the world. The idea that Leon Black, a billionaire financier, one of the most storied careers in private equity, that he could not find like a good accountant, and that he paid Jeffrey Epstein $200 million fucking dollars for tax advice. The idea that any of these people who had spent 40 years on Wall Street, they never found anyone as good as this guy. I mean, I feel like there was, around the time of his final arrest during the first Trump administration, there was this attempt to paint Epstein as like just this mastermind, this Svengali who you just could not, if you
He can't even spell.
He is an idiot. He is a charmless buffoon. He is an annoying, stupid pedophile. There is no expertise this guy could offer anyone.
Wait, he's a pedophile? Oh my god.
Literally the physical procurement.
Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile?
And, like, I mean, this is another thing that, like, I mean, this is speculation on my part, but we see another thing is revealed in these emails is, like, the fact that, like, Epstein, quote, when I was done with my 20-year-old girlfriend, I, quote, gave her to Donald Trump. And then there's, like, intimations about their falling out, where, like, Donald Trump was angry that Jeffrey Epstein poached girls from his Mar-a-Lago spa. And, like, and I know that supposedly fell out over a land deal in Palm Beach, but, like, I'm like, this is speculation on my part, but like,
I know
when
only,
I see images of
Jesus, I'm trying to
Mar-a-Lago
only
and
heal
what I
when I'm
imagine
doing
goes on there, and like why it's like Donald Trump's base of operations, is I think Donald
Sure, but
Trump
he's
basically
doing that.
started to like think he could do what Epstein does on his own.
Oh, 100%.
And I think Mar-a-Lago is just another hub of sex trafficking and pimping.
I mean, this is the guy that tried to go up against the NFL.
Yeah.
No.
You're right.
And this is like sort of like dark boomer ideology. The same thing where they say, you know, show up to the company you want to work at with a broom. You know, don't go up to the Israelis and say, hey, I could run your blackmail op better. Just do it on spec.
Yeah. And like, I guess like where this leaves us now is that like, this is, you know, what Chapo Trap House was saying back in 2019 is that like, is there anyone in the respectable media who can deny or try to shade the fact that one, the current president of the United States is an obese rapist and pedophile, and that two, his longtime good friend and associate Jeffrey Epstein is also a sex trafficking pedophile who is running a blackmail ring at the behest of a foreign intelligence agency, i.e. that intelligence agency
that was a bad move.
being the Mossad and a foreign country being Israel. Like, this is not a conspiracy theory anymore. Like, I would love to see someone try to argue against that or try to say, maybe that's a little too strong.
Everyone is passing around that Ezra Klein thing from about a year ago.
Oh my God! You want to talk about something that's aged worse than anything? And that was only from a month or two ago.
Oh, I thought that was from. Oh
no! He said that very recently. That was this year. He said
Wait,
that.
the Ta-Nehisi Coast.
I mean, it would be idiotic to say at any time.
For the
like,
Charlie Kirk thing, but
you have to figure that's just like wishful thinking, right?
Ezra Klein has said a lot of really stupid things recently.
He knows someone told him, "Hey, Larry Summers is all over these emails,"
Oh,
And
he was oh, that makes
for
sense.
any
That's
way
right.
out for Summers or any of these fucking idiots he admires.
A way out for the hegemonic worldview that he represents and shills for every day.
Yeah.
Which, like, the maintenance of, as he's aware, requires increasingly more tortured readings of reality to get your mind around what it actually is.
Like,
and to preserve the credibility of the people who are its leading lights, like Larry Summers.
The last person in the world who believes that tax advice shit. I mean, I would say it's insulting, because it is, but it's more pathetic. It is more, you know, everyone in 2025 is Homer Simpson, with the now green submarine sandwich fished out of the fished out of the trash can.
I can't stand
but
that.
especially Ezra.
And I mean, and this brings me around to like what we were originally going to talk about today, which is the Democrats' capitulation on the shutdown deal, and the fact that like once again, like a handful of Democratic politicians with the full support of Chuck Schumer. But I mean, like at a time when like coming off an election, which was like dealt the Democrats their strongest hand that they've had in years. And there was some feeling of momentum going forward because, in fact, according to polls, the public was overwhelmingly blaming Donald Trump for the shutdown. And the fact that they gave it up for nothing, for not even a bag of peanuts, is like it's the old thing that we've always noticed, is that like these handful of very elderly Democrats who are not facing re-election get to occupy the position of sin eater for the entire Democratic Party. That like they get to be the blame, they get to like take on the role of being like the hated capitulator.
Oh my God, is that it? Oh no, that's not it.
The
That's
rest
not
of the party and its actual agenda. And I think what's going on here is
I remember what to do.
Like one, there's been reporting that like a lot of them were under very heavy pressure from their donors in the airline industry, which was looking down a holiday season in which fully 10% of American airspace was just simply shut down because of the lack of air traffic controls. Can you imagine what that would have been like? And obviously that would give the Democrats even more leverage over Donald Trump as this shutdown gets immeasurably more unpopular and painful to the American people. Like, can you imagine what the holidays would be like? I mean, what they're going to be like already, but like under this context.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing. I would not say that American air travel is saved by any means.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the writing was on the wall as soon as it became a possibility, perhaps, that they might nuke the filibuster.
That's the real thing that's going on here. That's it.
That was unacceptable. That was unacceptable for Schumer, the Democrats. I mean, it's also...
Yeah, go back to what I was doing. Like, I need to try to bounce up.
Simone Sanders and the usual suspects saying, well, you know, Schumer voted no. And
that's irrelevant. It's that he gave permission to his coalition to vote yes.
Taking that on face value, if Schumer voted no and he wanted everyone in his caucus to vote no, then he has no business leading the fucking caucus.
That's your job as Senate Majority Leader, is to enforce discipline on votes like that.
Yeah, so either he wanted to capitulate or he didn't, and he's fucking incompetent.
And I go back to like the self-appointed like cast members who become the sin eater, become like the Judas goat for the Democratic Party. I mean, Matt called this back in 2020 about Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. Is that like they weren't the only ones protecting the filibuster? They were just the ones that were willing to be useful in that regard. And here's the thing, I know it's like, oh, like you don't know, like this is how the Senate functions, and it couldn't function without the filibuster. And this is what protects us from Donald Trump doing really awful things. No, like what if they got like the filibuster should be done away with, but the thing is, the second it is done away with, then the Democratic Party will face an existential threat to them, which is that they will be required to pass legislation that the people who vote for them want them to do and elect them to do. And the filibuster is the ultimate like pressure valve release to prevent that from ever happening. And so that is why, like, because if the shutdown had continued, Donald Trump was promising to do away with the filibuster, and they cannot allow that to happen, even though it is used exclusively against the interests of, I don't know, civil rights or progressive legislation or anything good happening in this country's political system.
That is just too too high of a price for them. The idea that during the next Democratic administration that they would have to pass card check, no, that's unacceptable.
Or a public option or something like that.
Right.
Oh,
right.
come
The
on.
idea that the next Joe Biden, who says, well, I'm not for Medicare for all, but I support a public option, would actually have to try and deliver that.
Yeah. And, you know, like, and there's another aspect to this because, like, obviously, like, this happened right after the elections on Tuesday, which, like, everyone regarded as basically a bloodbath for Republicans nationally and, like, an indicator of where the midterms are going to go next year. And there was this feeling of, like, for the first time, the Democrats had some momentum and they had the Republican Party on their back foot because, like, they weren't, because, in fact, they were not being blamed for the government shutdown. People, like, the public was mad at Donald Trump for it, even though it was the technically them who shut the government down. But the thing is, I talked to Catherine about this, and I like, you can read into this what you want.
Damn it!
But like, I think the results of Tuesday's election were one of the reasons that they capitulated so quickly, because I don't think that they want to have a precedent set where they have the popular will at their back and that they have the momentum to do what they want. And I think honestly, some of it was also just punishment for Zoran getting across the finish line. Like, I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it.
I think, like, really since 2020, even when Biden's margin in 2020 was not quite what they expected, they had already started this narrative of, like, the groups. And in the mind of, like, the average party functionary, a repeat of a Trump one style, like, emboldened resistance, however you want to term it, that is the easiest on-ramp for, like, the hated groups to have any influence in the party, and they do not want that. I don't know how much like Zoran's victory had how much impact it had with this specifically. But I do think that, like, yeah, they are terrified of running back 2018 with, like, a base that now, after having done, like, the Joe Biden experiment, is not going for that shit again.
And, like, in light of everything we talked about to open up the show, their opposition, the president that they are opposed to, is more or less openly, as I said, an obese sex criminal who is, like, was elected on the promise that he was going to root out the elite sex criminals at the height of American power. Only, oh, surprise, surprise, turns out he's the biggest one there is. And he is, like, as implicated by this shit as anyone.
Oh, can I go in there? Fuck.
No one is more invested in the idea of his continued viability than Schumer and Jeffries and everyone else who relies on that party for their paycheck.
God, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
In a little bit.
Oh my God, no way.
Talk about the Rod Dreher piece about the kind of, like, the ongoing, and I think, like, increasingly worsening schism in the Republican Party between their sort of old guard. Like, for years, like, Democrats have, like, complained about this problem that, like, the younger generation of staffers who are, like, do comms and, like, write legislation and, like, who work for all of these, like, ancient mummies in the Democratic Party. This is, like, the Matt Yglesias line about the groups is that, like, the young people are forcing the Democratic Party into unpopular political positions because they're youthful and radical and they're different than the old guard. The thing is, like, what's happening in the Republican Party right now is, like, actually, like, an even more serious schism because basically everybody involved in conservative policy in DC under the age of 30 or 40 right now is a Nazi. Like, and I'm not saying that as a rhetorical gimmick or as, like, some sort of, like, hyperbolic satire. No, I mean that quite literally. And the schism that they're having, the thing with, like, Tucker Carlson and the Heritage Foundation and, like, whether they should deplatform him for doing an interview with Nick Fuentes is, like, it's very clear that, like, the conservative movement under Donald Trump has made, like, their project essentially about, like, changing what it means to be an American to being something exclusively about race. That, like, being an American means being white. And the schism that they're undergoing right now is, are Jewish people included in that or not? Like, are we going to be an ethno-nationalist party that hates all religious and racial minorities except one? Or are we going to, like, be holistic in our approach here? And, like, and then the question of where does the Zionist project get left in that calculation.
Well, this, I wouldn't say it's right now the exact same contradiction at the core of both parties, but
I am getting way too impatient for this. This sucks. This fight is really annoying.
Biden was inaugurated. It is kind of the same contradiction, right? Because the Republican like establishment, however you want to term it, they have now for the last 3 years, they have been trying to create a form of nationalism that is racist, but also philosemitic.
Yes.
Which, you know, if you can figure that one out, if you can hold that one together, you know, good luck. With Democrats, it was a similar thing, trying to create sort of like a maximalist social liberalism, right?
Yeah.
The kind that Beto offered in the primary.
Oh, come on.
Where
no, I'm done. It's over.
Like, you know, you would have Kamala's campaign using the same color scheme as the Wretched of the Earth and shit like that, but it was still as...
But like even more neoliberal and right-wing economic.
But also as Zionist as ever.
Yeah,
Probably the most Zionist administration in American history up until this one. It was both the same contradiction. The same contradiction was tearing both parties apart. It still sort of is tearing the Democrats apart in the sense that the base unanimously sees Israel as the genocide is just being unacceptable, and the party sees it as being like the one thing worth sacrificing over.
Yeah.
The Republicans, I don't
Oh,
know
come
if they're
on.
quite as committed, but I mean the money people are. So what are you gonna do?
And this is also in light of Donald Trump. Did you see the clip of him this week where he was approving 600,000 H-1B visas
No!
for
Oh my God, I hit
Chinese
the wrong
people
command.
to come to get work in this country? And Megyn Kelly or whatever was just like, don't we have like smart, talented people here in America? And he was like, no, we don't. We don't have any. Like, they're all stupid. We got nothing. You know what he said? He said, you don't. He didn't even say we.
Oh,
he said,
no, I'm so...
you don't. You don't.
Hey, Dash I do.
You
Never gonna get
all
through this if I don't
pigs.
have Dash Master.
And this is what I mean about like this in conjunction with like the Epstein emails, which are like just so damning, and like as well as like that he was heralded to like re-election this time, based on the promise of like releasing the Epstein files and finally punishing Bill Clinton and John Podesta and sending all the pedos to prison. Like, remember all the J.D. Vance tweets from like 2021 where he was like, a bit odd that a sex trafficker connected to all the powerful people in government killed himself in prison, and then we never talk about that. Oh, odd. What could they possibly gain from covering up the disclosure of these files? It's just like, okay, J.D., all right. We see what's going on here. Like, come on. And like, because, you know, now he's not talking about it for obvious reasons, because the guy he works for and owes his entire political campaign to is like the chief fucking whoremonger of this child rape and blackmail ring.
I cannot wait for the JD run in 2028. I would go into cryo sleep right now. I feel like when I was a child anticipating Christmas at the start of December. Well, I think he's going to try to preempt the backlash, and he's going to go, yeah, I actually get longhoused by my brownoid void all the time. I love it.
I mean, sort of like Alexander Dugin was responding to a tweet, and it said, someone said, the best thing Donald could do right now for the MAGA movement is fire all these advisors that are making him say all these stupid things. And,
I get the advisors!
And then Alexander Dugin retweeted that and said, the best thing Donald could do for the MAGA movement now is kill himself. This is the first time I feel like, because like, you know, obviously the death of MAGA has been overseen.
His second term has been a real monkey's
butt. That is that he was fucking reelected president.
Like the only way I can really think of it.
But like now in this moment is the first time, like as I began this show, like my brain is like beginning to broach the question of like, is MAGA spent as a political force?
I lost focus. I was in the zone for a second.
Like the deference that the media has given him thus far, I think it's going to pass a sort of a point of no return, and everyone is going to like he's just going to be as happened with every American president, as it happened with Joe Biden, is that like a certain level of unpopularity will be reached, and then everyone will now openly state, "Oh, this guy's senile. This guy, everyone hates this guy and blames him for their problems." But with Donald Trump, it's like everyone's just going to admit that this guy is a blackmailed child sex predator who's also a very unpopular president. And like, look, whatever comes after it, I'm sure is going to be just as terrifying, if not worse. But like, I think you're beginning to see maybe the terminus of the MAGA political movement as a movement that is entirely dependent and only defined by what Donald Trump, who he is, and what he says it is. And I think it's hitting a wall right now.
Yeah, and the first 6 months after the election, it was clear that they were setting up for a MAGA after Trump, trying to make this coherent, trying to assign a set of permanent policy positions and ideals to where, logically in the future someone could say that they are the inheritor of this mantle, even though Trumpism has always famously been very amorphous. Now, yeah, I mean, I get, going off past data, you would, if you were a Republican presidential hopeful, you would have to say that he did the best job of turning out people who Republicans have historically struggled with, people that they need to be even competitive in presidential elections. But he is, I mean, before these elections even, I thought that he has to be much more unpopular than people realize. But things actually exceeded what I predicted. I do not know how they reconcile him being radioactive. I mean, if we were going off the last instance of this, with all the
I wish I jumped the other way. I wanted to look at
the winner, no matter how slim the margin was, going,
I could have
okay,
jumped better.
The fact
That
that
probably
I won
would have
is
helped.
an indication of me doing things how I want to do them all the time. They'll say, the polls are cocked, the polls were wrong in 2016. When we go to our rallies, everyone loves us. And it'll be like, the fall of Constantinople. They'll be doing this until there's 10 people left in America who are behind this shit.
Felix, I mean, we've talked before about how Brandonization is the only path for any American president, and just seeing Trump walk the Brandon path. Have you followed what he did this week with the affordability issue? Because right after Zoran won, he started doing all these tweets about how MAGA is all about affordability. And that's our issue now.
My dreams, I could.
And then within not even a day, he gets interviewed on Fox.
Okay, the kingdom. Here for the. My God, isn't that? $1,500 pass.
Fox News or something about grocery prices or whatever, and he goes, "It's made up. It's not real." And he's doing the Will
I think there's
Sampson
another one of
thing
those guys
about
I haven't fought yet.
Voters don't actually know what they feel about how tight their pocketbook is these days because the media is lying.
I did say I owned up. I looked up a map.
Credit to the GOAT.
So
Will Stansel is still doing that, even though Trump is president. He is
Because
so
I want to buy
committed to this. I think that's awesome.
I'm gonna finish
it would
100%.
It would be so easy for Stansel to go. Well, actually, now there is an affordability thing because of the inflation from tariffs. But he's like, nope, costs are great.
But I'm not gonna just run around.
I admire that. But yeah, I mean, do you? It's not quite the same thing, right? Because the remarkable thing.
Oh, there's a sale too. That
was
I want to get it
that
before
the
it's
deep
on
state
sale, and I don't
and
want
the
to.
media used the last bits of magic and juice that they had to tug Brandon's corpse over the finish line and prevent his obvious senility from being an issue for the first year and a half of his presidency.
Yeah.
With Trump, the magic, the juice of the Con Inc. movement, that was already slipping away. They didn't quite have the same capital to spend as the deep state did. But I mean, I am thinking the same thing you are here, which is we have been here before. I'm thinking back to January of 2021, where it seemed like this was finished. DeSantis is the anointed next guy. They're going to revert to a sort of like zombie Tea Party thing with Mitt Romney characteristics. It's a little different now just by virtue of Democrats not controlling the executive branch, but gun to my head, I would say that like there is not a great future for this movement.
Well, I mean, it seems like, look, they can, at least they can read the room as it regards Israel and how the people of this country feel about it for whatever reason. But the thing is, like, all the energy on the right now is invested in a movement that sees their political, like, their political project as one of, like, white people only. That, like, nationalism is about race and, like, that there should be no place for non-white people in American society. And the thing is, at the end of the day, you still have to partake in the pretense of elections, and it's hard for me to imagine in America in 2025 that being a that being a winning political message. I think that they were lying to themselves, and this. I think they're feeling betrayed now because they think like it's the same problem leftists always run into, where they're like the American system can't be reformed. Every time we get a hopeful new leader, it's just it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And I think like they've been I think they told themselves in like the first year or so of this Trump administration that I think they were invested in the idea that we're finally doing it. He is going to end democracy in America and appoint himself like president for life and do away with like the pretense of representative democracy. Right up until the Charlie Kirk assassination and his reaction or non-reaction to it and how nonplussed he is about all of it, I think that they were thinking like that was the moment to do it. And they're seeing that he doesn't give a shit right now and has nothing but contempt for them and everyone like them. And like it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
It reminds me a lot of the ex-Bernie, ex-Warren people,
okay, hold on.
Some of whom either matriculated into the Biden administration or otherwise sympathetic think tanks who, for the first 2 years,
this transparent. Where was I?
Trying to say technically he's the best. He's the most
elder who I have the part of the map.
Right? Yeah. I just
go back right now.
I don't have too much more to say about this. Obviously, like I'm fascinated to see where this story goes, and like I said, how much longer Donald Trump as a political figure can like withstand this. Or how much longer the project of American democracy can take this. It's like,
go back to the...
I thought the birthday card shit was like, I could not even believe that shit. But like to discover that there is level after level deeper to this shit, and that it is now just so out there in the public that like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe like the depressing answer is that like our system of government will just choke on along as it always has, despite these, like the glaring fact now that like the guy in charge of it is like not only deeply compromised by like blackmail, but is just like a fucking rapist. Like, I don't know where we go from that, but it's all not just him, but everyone else at the commanding heights of like finance, government, the media, like all of it, all the way down. Like I just don't know how much more of this we can take. I mean, maybe the answer is like we have a limitless capacity to keep taking it, but like it's quite I don't know. It's just so jarring. It's so brazen. It's just so brazen, and like for years it was like us, TrueAnon, like the sort of like the lefty like podcast and politics sphere. Like this is our province alone. And like this was our brand, and now it's just like, what does it mean that reality and like consensus reality has now been forced so violently into like having to belatedly come to terms with that.
Yeah, and we've never been believers for as long as the show's been around. We've never been believers in the idea of like, you know, if only people knew.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Then, you know, blah, blah, blah. But this is different. We're not saying that.
There's always like there's like a pointlessness to announcing that whole like we were there saying this from the beginning. Like I guess I get it from like the
church becomes president and everything.
There is like a brand of leftists too, like that makes it. They make like that their entire thing is like we've been saying this forever, and you're just not catching up. That doesn't matter right now.
I will
fuck up.
Till the end of my life, I will say they killed Paul Wellstone.
It's like when someone's into like a book or something, and then it gets made into TV, and then they like are like I like this when it was just a book. And it's like, it doesn't matter. You should just be happy that it's catching on.
Like this would actually, if not meaningfully move American politics along, at least have a body count, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
To see it resound in just the continued slow momentum
the
of
only
this
body
shitty
count
political
so far
project.
is just Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah,
that's it so far. But like, who knows where this is gonna go? And like, maybe the most depressing outcome is that like, just it will continue as a pace as it always has.
I mean,
people will begrudgingly just knuckle. I mean, people will just begrudgingly be like, you know, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it?
That is what we predicted though. In our first post-election episode last year, that the future is just these two senile, bloated political projects just passing off the same flaming bag of shit to each other every few years.
But, you know, like, as far as our, enemies or nemesises in the American media go,
I'm gonna try to see. I'm gonna see what happens.
Are they going to continue to be on TV and like talk about political issues or appoint themselves moral arbiters of the discourse? How much longer can that really go on at this point?
If you let these people go on TV and act like they represent like 60% of Americans after this, you should fucking kill yourself. You should have always killed yourself, but you should especially put a gun into your mouth and pull the trigger now.
Like, as we mentioned, it was not even, I feel like it was like a month or two ago that Ezra was like, you know, I think like his life as a predator was probably kept entirely separate from all of his very highly influential and powerful friends in his circuit, and then never the twain shall meet. It's like, really?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the project that's been in place since the general election, which is just the mainstream media accepting that Trumpism was not just a fad, but overcorrecting to this point where it's just like the default in American politics. And all of this shit is normal. Killing like random fishermen is normal. All of this is fine. But that too, I mean, the fact that this won't even cause embarrassment among people who have like happily given softball interviews to Larry Summers and people like that, that is also like incredibly demoralizing.
Just 3 days
I think
ago,
that we need to realize
Larry Summers was
I'm not gonna. I don't know if I can say that.
Of Harvard to
but
intervene,
like, if you have like a might versus right
Harvard
mentality, like if you're somebody who's adopted that mentality, like, that's like where you're.
Like the nerve.
Like the only thing that actually gets through to you and like makes you, you know, like feel like kind of embarrassed or ashamed of yourself is like a Charlie Kirk situation.
You know, like,
because that's what you believe. That's like literally you've adopted that as belief. So basically, like it has to be like a Charlie Kirk situation for you to be like, oh damn, that they mighted him,
or like his position.
And I guess that's right. Like I didn't, like I don't think it's right. But like if you have that view, that's what happened.
Political sanction.
You know, like I'm just saying,
the student body of his institution for taking a moral stand on Israel that he disapproves of. That he can claim is outside the realm of like, you know, polite opinion or considered thought in the Harvard student body. Just like, who are you, dude? Like we all like people like this has been open for so long now, but like it is so undeniable now that like it's gonna, like I said, the interesting thing is going forward is to see how many of these people just continue like nothing happened and how much they're allowed to. I guess like that will be telling.
Yeah. I doubt that we will ever see the CNNs of the world admit to the obvious too, that this was an Israeli
okay.
Do not
maybe,
hold your breath on
cognitive
that.
dissonance about like what the fuck is like, why is the relationship between the United States and Israel so weird? Like, as Bill Clinton said, who's the superpower here? Like the resolution to that, or the answer to that, seems to be screaming in your face right now at this point, in terms of like all this shit. And it's like, is that going to get acknowledged?
Is there a
I don't
mention
know.
there?
We'll
Hold on.
see. It may get to the point where they have to. I don't know. To preserve their future credibility going forward on other things. Like, at some point, like, they're going to have to saw off the ankle. Like, you know, like the coyote trapped in a bear trap or whatever.
Yeah. Going back to the beginning of the show, do you think that Fetterman, this is another, like, do you think this is like, he thought the same thing we did today?
Yeah, it might have been
like,
earlier.
Oh my God,
yeah,
there's
when
so
I was
much
like outside,
news.
you're like.
But in his case, he's like, that means no attention.
He was scared. It looked really skinny too.
It was like everyone in America had a birthday party today. And he was like,
but then, like, if they look fat, they probably ate like your cat. So.
Crack my big fucking dumb head open.
That's...
Is the well from the ring a real place? I'll get lost in there.
Putting himself in a bucket and just lowering it. Yeah, is there any open mine shafts in your Braddock? I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna go for a walk.
Yeah, I guess I'll look.
Outside of the sort of either regulatory capture or just regulatory failure,
if I finish the last Coliseum.
What else is
From here I can get there pretty fast. I'll try.
Premier driver of unaffordability?
Well, we tackled it from a number of different angles. So we did a piece on middlemen that have been inserting themselves into various transactions in the economy, everywhere from real estate to healthcare in a big way. So example being pharmacy benefit managers, which sit in the middle of pharmacies, health plans, and drug companies. And as it turns out, take a bunch of profit off the top of themselves and make drug prices higher. So that's an example of middlemen. We did another story on wages. I mean, low wages is one of the reasons why people can't afford everything. There was a great Rand Institute study that showed that wages as a share of national income have gone significantly down over the last 50 years. And if they stayed at the level
authorities and big tech worry about is something much bigger. This is the greatest fallacy that we have labored under in the West since I was a kid. But he had them there to humiliate, because he's a very vindictive person, Donald Trump, as we all know.
There's a sort of prediction of the end of American empire, and how do those two narratives to you kind of like sit together?
Oh, very easily.
Capitalism swept aside by gargantuan monopolistic tech platforms which seek not just to dominate markets, but to own them. The result being that the need to compete to earn a profit has been replaced by a model in which a handful of companies are able to demand rents, subscriptions, transaction fees, and we're all increasingly just required to pay if we want to participate in modern life.
I've been reading and writing about platformization and tech monopolies for quite some time now, and in that time, few people have been as keen to stress the importance of these trends as Yanis Varoufakis.
Yanis argues that this isn't just business as usual, it's not even just capitalism reshaping itself to a digital age. He argues it's something else entirely. Techno-feudalism.
When I saw that Yanis was here in the UK promoting his new book, Raise Your Soul, I leapt at the chance to arrange to meet him here at Penguin Random House in London to chat through his ideas and his new book.
I wanted to ask him about this bold thesis, about the coalition between big tech and the far right, and how we should navigate these turbulent times on both a political and human level. This interview is part of a new format that we're trialling on the channel, in which I'm keen to sit down with experts, power holders, and critics of power to ask them the big questions about where our world is headed.
If you like it, then please do let us know down in the comments, and if you'd like to support myself and my team to experiment with new stuff like this, then I'd be super grateful if you'd consider supporting my work over at patreon.com/TomNicholas.
Yanis, capitalism is dead. That's been your sort of thesis for some time. That is like a bold statement.
Not very long. Well, 4 years.
A few
Here
years.
we go.
Yeah, I know. It really pisses off my
Oh shit, can you go down
fellow
below?
leftists. Because, you know, we leftists, we have this conception of ourselves as beings that descended upon the planet, the capitalism. So here I am telling them that it's already dead, mate, and we didn't kill it.
Someone else got there first.
You know, this book was. I'm a Marxist leftist and reconstructed, okay, socialist, and yet it's my side of politics that hated that book, as I knew they would. But my point is that, you know, wherever you look, you see the triumph of capital, and I don't dispute that. If anything, I want to emphasize that. But for me, and this is the gist of my thesis, my hypothesis.
Oh my god, that's such a wacky.
Can
Oh,
put
it
right
lets
now,
me avoid damage
like
too.
the Ebola virus killed off everything around it.
I know, it didn't
So
do-
much so that it
Wait,
killed
what?
some host capitalism. So capitalism was killed.
It
by
just lets
capital.
me move.
Capital
Is that the point?
Mutated, like, you know, viruses mutate into something so toxic. I call it proud capital. It's what I believe in capitalism in the internet. It's a new form of capital which is not productive. What it does is it bestows upon its owners incredible power to modify our behavior. Machines weren't able to do that in the past. They were produced means of production. You know, the machines producing machines. Or goods.
Okay, I don't think I need the
Now,
wacky whatever this thing is.
directly to influence what we do and what we think and what we desire.
Get out of here.
And anyone who owns that power, Zuckerberg, there's what I call the cloudalists or techno-killer lords. They are capitalists in the sense that they own capital, but this is no longer capitalism. Is what I call techno-feudalism.
And so I love like a timeline. I love like a date and a place. Yeah. When to you would you mark the moment or the week, month, year that kind of capitalism's time of death sort of?
Can you see my bald head?
I wouldn't like to say
it's bald.
Yeah.
Don't be kind. No, don't dispute it.
Yeah.
Kindly, there is no need. Gratuitous kindness is not necessary. There was not one hair whose demise rendered me bald. If you asked me which hair did you lose and then you were bald, the answer is no. That's, you know, so there's a grey zone. Yeah. So it's similarly, if you were to ask an economic historian, when did feudalism die and when was capitalism born? Who knows?
Yeah.
We know that it happened sometime towards the end of the 19th century.
About like
even
if you've
the middle of the 19th century.
about like the accumulation of capital, like the process of.
Yeah, this is dialectics. This is what we Marxists refer to
How
the dialectical change. But
these
I'll
like
give you
slight
some
changes in how society operated,
grey
how like
zone,
these pressures started to happen upon like artists.
It begins
started like,
in
and even like in terms of imperialism, like
in
how
2008 with our generation, so that is my generation, you're too young. My generation is 1929.
requirement.
Collapse of Wall Street, the City of London.
This isn't, yeah, all this is in the community.
The Great Financial Crisis, as it's called.
Force a requirement for basically a capitalist provided good that basically gradually like undermined, and this is exactly what happened with
2008 is a significant year.
Regular in the countries from which capitalism
more or less around the same time you have
gradually undermined their system, so they like had to embrace capitalism. And I think this is also the reason socialist countries why they can't.
It was a commons.
Yeah.
People were on the internet.
Like China or something.
Marketplace. You can buy and sell anything.
Countries that consider themselves
I mean, and even today,
exist in an environment that by capital, they basically have to. They have to participate.
SMTP in the address where your email app uses to send your email. That SMTP was a program that somebody created in the 1970s.
Okay, I guess pretty much.
And that was given away for free to the community. It was a commons.
Like an open protocol.
Like HTTP, you've seen HTTP in the URL code line?
Yeah.
Well, that was a program that somebody created.
I'm not gonna...
£1 out of it. She was like a realm of gift exchanges. That started getting privatized, and it started getting privatized because we didn't have any opportunity to prove who we are on the internet. So we had to, in the end, subcontract. To this day, you cannot prove who you are on the internet. You have to beg your banker, or Google, or Facebook, to prove who you are. So whenever you register for something, right, it says, sign in with Google. Or use your banking credentials. Essentially,
let's see if this helps at all.
Capitalist company, which I call Technofeudal or Clouderist, to allow you to do things as you. So you have that is the framework in which what I call cloud capital, this new form of machinery, which does not produce anything. It's not a produced means of production, but it's a produced means of behavioral modification, started rising up. And why is 2008 important?
Oh, okay, we're good.
Because in April 2009, in this city,
He looks so much
London, Gordon Brown, who was the prime minister at the time, convened the G20. They were all panicking. They were shitting themselves, to be more precise, because capitalism was collapsing. Financialized capitalism was collapsing. So this started the process by which they printed $35 trillion over the course of 15, 20 years. 35 trillion is 35,000 billion. 35,000 million, right? That's a lot of dough.
Yeah, more than
and the idea was to pump it into the banking system to defloat the bankers, the criminals who had created the GFC, the Great Financial Collapse. Yeah, that's right. You heard about bailouts and all that.
This was
criminality.
I must have been like 16 or something. So there's some elements of this thesis that are like quite easy, because I'm like, of course it's important. I was 16 or so, and so like it kind of.
They created this 35 trillion, which they gave to the bankers. The theory was that the bankers would then lend it to businesses. Businesses would hire people, and employment would be shored up, and the money would trickle down to the little people. Rubbish. BS. That never happened, because at the same time they were practicing austerity. Even the labor.
Oh my God, it's actually working.
Before George Osborne, they were practicing austerity. So austerity for the men.
Kind of like the perfect environment for it, except for this. Get out of here.
So they gave the money to big business. The big business people, CEOs and so on, looked outside the glass towers in the city of London, wherever it is that they are, in Frankfurt, in New York, and they saw impecunious matters. So they said, as if we were going to, manufacture new snazzy, high value-added goods. Even they don't have the money to buy it. So they took the money that the states had created and the central banks had created, the 55 trillion, and they bought back their own shares. So the share value went up. They were not investing anything. They were not producing anything. We were not hiring people, but their share value went up, and their bonuses were linked. Now, the only capitalists who actually took that money and invested in machinery were the Zuckerbergs, the Bezos, the big tech, the ones.
Companies.
And that's how, effectively, we, our states, our organized society, paid for the cloud capital that, along with the privatization internet, created what I call cloud capital and technofeudalism.
And can you describe, so you particularly named like a few kind of companies there, sort of Facebook, you've got your Amazons, you've got your, I guess, sort of Elon Musk's X and his sort of various companies. Apple,
Nvidia.
And can you...
these 7 companies, by the way, are more than half of the value, of the capital value of the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
That's why I'm talking about technofeudalism. They've taken over.
Yeah, the kind of concentration of it. I guess, can you explain to us a little bit about what exactly is it that some of these companies do that, someone might log onto Amazon and it kind of feels like you're still doing capitalism, right? You're buying a product, maybe you're selling something. If you're doing, what is it that Amazon does that makes it techno-feudal rather than capitalistic?
It's a brilliant question, because indeed, exactly as you put it, the moment you enter Amazon, it feels like a market. There are hundreds of thousands or millions of sellers, and there are tens of millions, hundreds of millions of buyers. Is this not a market? No, it's not. Even though there's a lot of trading, it's not a market, because a market, by definition, needs to be somewhat decentralized. So if you and I walk into a farmer's market or a shopping mall, you and I, for a start, we can talk to one another. We can exchange views. We can, window shop and say, oh, look at this rubbish what they're selling here. Oh, this looks pretty good, right? And you can go in there and you decide, you are autonomous in deciding how much more to search the marketplace, right? But think of what happens when you are in Amazon. You go in there and it's you and the screen. Behind the screen, there is a search engine. There's an algorithm. So essentially, through interacting with this algorithm, you are training Alexa. Let's say, you know, the interface. You can speak to as well to Alexa on behalf of Amazon. You are training Alexa to train you, to train her to know you better, so that at some point she can give you good advice about basic things. Because it's not just that you buy with Alexa. You say switch off the lights, and the machine, you're training it to know you. And at some point it starts giving you advice. I don't know about you, but when
I'm fucked.
recommends books to me.
No! God, I panicked this much.
Recommend books. They're not always.
I could have gotten through that and freaked out.
Recommend songs for me. It's usually spot on. Yeah. When friends tell me, "Oh,
it's a pretty good mix."
So this
anyway.
is bonds of trust, implicit trust between you and the machine. So next time, when you type electric bicycle because you want to buy an electric bicycle, and Alexa says you buy that, okay? Then you see the anthropomorphism. It recommended good things in the past, things that I enjoyed. And you don't have much time. You want to order an electric bicycle, you buy it. Now, if you and I were to walk into a shop and find a bicycle shop, right? We would train our eyes towards the.
I definitely sat at the bench. Okay, I'm gonna do it one more time. Sorry.
But I tell you that if we had now laptops or tablets and we typed in there electric bicycles, you would get different recommendations from mine. Because what the algorithm does is this. It knows that each one of us has different spending limits.
I think I've gotten a good balance of that shit.
We have trained it to know us.
I know I'm gonna get hit. Having the shit.
It belongs to Jeff Bezos, who takes between 35 and 40% of the price you pay for this electric bicycle.
Oh, I have to put.
It hasn't produced the electric bicycle. It's a go-between. So the algorithm it is primed, it's optimized to maximize the rent, not the profit of the bicycle seller, not your utility, but the rent of Jeff Bezos. So effectively, Jeff Bezos has created this digital fiefdom called Amazon, in which we find whether it's Uber, Airbnb, all those Alibaba digital fiefdoms, in which the management case to lure buyers and sellers and to extract cloud rents from the sellers, while at the same time extracting work from us, because we review things, we feed the algorithm, we replicate the algorithm, we accumulate more cloud capital, because that cloud capital is mainly the result of a lot of our labor. Every time you post something or you upload a video on YouTube, like we're doing now, right? You are adding to the capital of Google. And
like a Perry.
And the dividends that you get have nothing to do with the dividends that the cloud rents they get. So to cut a long story short, the fundamental difference.
I've heard that's possible, but I don't know.
And Amazon, or these cloud thieves as I call them, is that in markets you have a very large degree of decentralization. Right? People can talk to one another. They are autonomous to a significant extent. They can do their own research. They can find out, is this potato better than our potato, right? Whereas when it comes to the cloud feed, to Amazon.com like platforms, you enter there, you train the machinery to train you so that it knows how to input preferences, consumer preferences, and indeed passions and desires into your bosom. And then what it does is it bypasses the market and sends you that commodity directly to you, charging the producer a rent.
And you use this term rent for anyone watching that isn't kind of like au fait with this like terminology. What do you mean when you refer to like Amazon's cut or whatever the platform's cut is as a rent?
This is, I used to be.
Sure.
This is one of the hardest tasks of a professor, of a lecturer, to.
No, we're not good.
The audience understand the difference between profit and rent. Profit is what you get from entrepreneurial activity, from organizing production.
Oh, ouch.
From putting machines together with labor, wage labor, exploiting the laborers, using the machines to produce something, to sell it, pay your banker, pay your landlord, pay the worker, and then hopefully what you are left with is profit. So, and so if that's how you live, if this is how you function, you're constantly worried about the market, because the more competition there is, the lower your profit margin.
You need to have the best product, the best service.
Rent is exactly the opposite. It's payments you receive for doing bugger all, for effectively owning stuff. So you own this building, right? Off you go to the Côte d'Azur, to Costa del Sol somewhere, and you get rich in your sleep. And the more competition there is, the richer you get, because the more this building is going to have this company here, another company there. They're all engaged in competition with other companies in the sector in which they manufacture goods and services. The more competition there is, the lower their profit margin, but the higher your rent, because they're bidding up rents and house prices or apartment prices, office block prices. So rent is a kind of leakage from the capitalist flow thinking, and the more leakage there is, the richer the rent is, and the nearer the capitalist system comes to crisis. Because it's like, think of an escalator.
Yeah.
And imagine that there is an electricity leak. Somebody's stealing electricity from it. When that leak becomes substantial, the escalator will stall. That's an economic crisis. When rents exceed a certain threshold.
It's like Amazon is kind of renting out spaces on its website as much as it's making profit from.
It's actually worse than that. Yeah, it is renting space, and it is predatory in the manner in which it extracts rents. So, for instance, Amazon, Google, at the beginning, they were really kind to users, customers, and to sellers. So, Google, for instance, when it came to publishers, they would say to the Guardian,
I did it. I saw it. That was crazy.
Look, give us some of your stories, and we will post them and send it to people, and then they can link themselves to the page, and you can sell more advertisements. And the publishers loved that. Users liked it because they got free stories, and it all worked brilliantly. And then when we were all hooked on Google, especially the publishers, then what happened was, whereas once upon a time, I would type, give me a story about what Trump said today, right? If I care about my psychological equilibrium. And it would give me the New York Times in the first 5. It would go to number 50. And then Google would say to New York Times, you want to go up? Pay me. Give me a higher rent. And Cory Doctorow, a great commentator on the internet, a good friend, has coined the term for this. He calls it enshittification. So we are lured into these cloud thieves, and then
oh fuck! Come on. Okay, that has to be near the end.
All the benefits that we get go to shit.
Going again. We're going again. Wait.
Yanis's book on techno-feudalism was first published back in 2023, and since then we've seen some pretty massive shifts in the political sphere. Donald Trump is back in the White House and has forged a closer alliance than ever with the tech barons that Yanis writes about. Bezos, Zuckerberg, and their peers sat pride of place at Trump's second inauguration. And yet, that relationship hasn't always been an easy one. Most obviously, Trump's friendship with Elon Musk quickly went from bromance to bitter divorce. I was interested in how Yanis interpreted this relationship between big tech and the far right, and what he thought about
where like the ground.
Okay. I guess I could politics of all of this, because you mentioned there.
All this is political.
All of this. As much as we can.
See how they use some of them in.
You've talked there about Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, I'm thinking Elon Musk, Google, earlier this year,
that's actually Trump useful.
Came back for his second go at the US presidency, and kind of pride of place there were all of those figures, these sort of tech barons that you write about. Is there a connection between that rise of the far right, not only in the US but across the world, and the rise of this kind of new business model, this new economic structure?
Well, I need to be nuanced about this. The rise of the right of the outright of the fascists. Let's be clear about it. They're neo-fascists, and some of them not that neo. Was on the cards since 2008. That's why I'm so keen to alert people regarding the significance of that year, because our generation's 1929, just like in 1929, Wall Street collapse, the Wall Street collapse spearheaded the economic crisis, the rise in unemployment, the stagnation, which created discontent. The left failed to put forward a convincing platform, so the discontent was essential.
This isn't going to help. Like they won't help at all on the platform.
And we had the Second World War. Similarly, if I'm right in my analysis, that 2008 was our generation's 1929.
We'll see what happens.
Is the rise of the outright, xenophobia, misogyny, was on the cards since 2008. Especially that policy of socialism for the bankers and harsh austerity for the many that started in this city under Gordon Brown in April of 2009. So that was always going to happen, and it's the main reason why I stopped being a happy academic writing obscure texts for 20 people, and I started writing for the broader public to try to explain what happened in 2008 and then the rise of Backlog Reacts, is because I could see that fascism was going to rise up. It was in the air. And I come from a family that has experienced fascism in many different decades, and I just want to be one people. What the rise of cloud capital did was to make a bad thing worse. So the rising tsunami of fascism was turbocharged by cloud capital, by big tech.
So I guess for much of my life, politics has often been framed as a kind of pitched battle between like the power of the state and the power of corporations.
Oh,
right?
come
Rightly
on.
or wrongly.
Wrongly.
And wrongly. Well, I mean, that was what I was hoping you could dig into, right? Because, some people will see, Elon Musk sat there with Donald Trump, or Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg sat around a big dinner table, they were recently with Donald Trump, and they might go like, "Oh, this feels like very different to
What is Ed Sheeran
politics
saying
is
right
meant
now?
to be like these.
I guess he's trying to be like a good interviewer, like he's trying to like relate it to like a like.
Why that is wrong.
I think.
Well, this is the greatest fallacy that we have labored under in the West since I was a kid. It is true that social democrats and Thatcherites, monetarists call them, Tories, pretended that this was a great clash between those who believed in the state and those who believed in the market. But capitalism would not have existed without the state. Now, the reason why capitalism rose up in this country is because the king's army helped the landlords build up the enclosures. Without the state, there would be no enclosures. Without the enclosures, there would be no market for land and no market for labor. So there would have been no capitalism.
And the enclosures, just for anyone watching, that's like the taking of common land and parceling it up into...
The fencing off of the land, the expulsion of the peasants, the replacement with sheep, because wool was becoming an international commodity. The moment wool became an international commodity, now, with the peasants thrown off the land, the landlords could rent the land to proto-capitalists who took some of the expelled peasants and have made them raise sheep and shear the wool, and then they would sell it in the international markets. So then suddenly the international determined price of wool determined how much each plot of land was worth in terms of its rent. So suddenly you have a market for land, and the feudals didn't have. Right? And then because laborers were now expelled from the land, they would knock on doors and say, "I would do anything for a loaf of bread." That's the first labor market. Because before that, they were autonomous producers. They would produce wheat, and then the landlord would come and take his cut. Or send a sheriff to collect it. So capitalism happened.
Oh my God, no. Okay.
King's army of the state, and this is why it didn't happen in France, because France didn't have such a concentrated power in the hands of the state, of the king. It was a very loose agglomeration of feudal lords, and so bring it forward, if it wasn't for the British Empire, the British India Company would have collapsed. The British power. Think about the British state and the British India Company were one thing. Yeah. Okay, the army initially was private, then became public. So the state and capitalist power have always been in cahoots. They've always been hand in hand. If it wasn't for the state, the great collapse after
Oh my God, I
would never have. I mean, the state initially started spending more money on weaponry, then had wars, and without those wars, there would have been no capitalism. Then after the Second World War, we had the Bretton Woods system. You know, the golden age of capitalism, of the market, was a time when we had very limited competition, we had big conglomerates that in cahoots with the American state were fixing everything. For, you know, when I was born, the exchange rate between the Greek currency and the American dollar was 30 drachmas to $1. When I was 16, it was still 30 drachmas to $1. There was no market for currencies. The same with the British pound and the dollar. There was no market. You know, interest rates were fixed at 4% for decades. So, yeah, that was the golden era of capitalism. It wasn't a marketplace. It was an oligarchy with large corporations in cahoots with the state doing things. Now, the fact that that system collapsed is just another example of how capitalism effectively undermines itself. And it needs constantly to revive itself by squashing labor, by plundering, by, you know, crisis is the way in which it revives itself.
And what do you see in the relationship between the Trump government and those cloud barons that you're talking about? Kind of, what do you think the potential is there? What do you think the trajectory is there?
Well, initially, Donald Trump loathed them. He was, if you think
I'm fucked.
They banned him from Facebook, they banned him from YouTube, they banned him from Twitter.
He was trying like antitrust stuff with some of them.
That's right. He
Fuck! Oh my God, that's how it's gonna be. That's fuck. Okay, I know.
Analysis. And then suddenly,
this sucks, man.
Trump.
Now I know why I didn't finish this.
You have this photograph, if you remember, of his coronation, inauguration.
Actually,
and there are all these tech lords with him at the front. The
Wait a second.
take of the main media was, okay, so he's now leading this cabal of techno-feudal lords, as I call them. I don't think that's what he was. I think it was more of a Roman triumph. And that reminds us what the Roman triumph was. When Roman emperors would conquer Carthage or some Germanic tribe, they would capture their lords and take them to Rome in chains, humiliate them to prove.
But I hope I'm near the end at least.
The Roman emperor's success. I think that's what it was. He had them there. They volunteered to go, of course, because he was going to offer them some privileges. But he had them there to humiliate them because, you know, he's a very vindictive person.
We're not useful against
floating
guys, so I'm getting rid of it.
And they took it. And they took it and they gave him everything they wanted. You know, the Washington Post, even before the election, banned the editorial board from taking a position against Trump. And the Washington Post was the archetypal democratic newspaper, not democratic, small d, large d. And, you know, Zuckerberg and Bezos, and they did their mea culpa. They apologized profusely. They spent lots of millions on his campaign, on his inauguration party. So he is
one of them has to go.
Usurped them.
Let's go.
He's annexed them, and now he's propelling them to the stratosphere, but always on condition that they line his pockets. So how is he propelling them? Recently, his administration pushed through Congress something called the Genius Act. To cut a long story short, this is handing over the minting of the US dollar to big tech. He privatized the dollar, and he totally and utterly suppressed the power of the central bank. It used to be the case that the central bank was the purveyor of the national currency, the fiat currency. In the case of the United States, the US dollar, the mighty dollar. Now, essentially, he pushed and put the Fed down, and he's handing over, and this is extremely dangerous. In my view, this is the reason why this will be the form that the next huge financial crisis is going to take. But this is another big story. So essentially, what I call cloud capital and techno-feudalism is now being turbocharged by Trump, even though he was against them, through the process of minting of America's mighty dollar to this techno-feudal cabal.
And the story you kind of tell of these kind of rising techno-feudal lords feels like one of, you know, the American tech gods like taking the world over. And at the same time as we hear a lot about an American decline, kind of like there's a sort of prediction of the end of American empire. And how do those two narratives to you kind of like?
I think what I did is I left and I said I would like get more upgrades.
And very comfortable.
I did get more upgrades. Couple.
The era that Donald Trump refers to when he says, you know, make America great again, is the pre-1971 era, the period of Bretton Woods. He doesn't say so, but we can imply that, because that was the time when you had full employment, you had an America that was had a trade surplus vis-a-vis the rest of the world, and effectively controlled the world's monetary system. When that died in 1971, it was Richard Nixon who blew it up. And he didn't blow it up because he didn't like that system. It was that system.
God damn it, dude!
Because America had
no way.
It had gone from being a surplus country, having a trade surplus, and a budget surplus, to having a budget deficit, and primarily, effectively, America was living beyond its means. It was importing a lot more than it was exporting. And at that point, it was the American administration under Richard Nixon who decided, okay, we're not going to be Germans. In other words, we're not going to tighten our belt to austerity, you know, or Rachel Reeves or Joe Dalton, right? We are going to increase our deficits, and we're going to make the rest of the world pay for it. Okay, and this is exactly what was happening. I mean, the American trade deficit has been increasing constantly. And how are they paying for these deficits? With dollars. So they buy stuff from Japan, from China, from Germany, from France, from wherever, and they pay with IOUs called dollars. Right? Increasing huge quantities of dollars that are being minted by the Fed. Now, the problem that these capitalists in Germany, in Japan, in China, and so on have is that they can't use the dollars in their own country, so they have to send it back to the United States. Wall Street. And Wall Street uses it in order to finance the American government through purchasing American bonds.
Shit!
And real estate. That's why Trump is rich, because of all the foreign money coming into Wall Street, which is the flip side of the trade deficit of the United States. So, why am I saying all this? Because you asked me, how is it possible for the techno-feudal class of the United States to be going from strength to strength, for American hegemony to be rising, while America, the heartlands of America, are shrinking. They are going through carnage, as you know, to use a word that Donald Trump has also used very effectively in his pre-election campaign. And the answer is, it's been happening since the 1970s. So Wall Street was going from strength to strength. The American economy was deindustrializing because it was relying more and more on stuff that was imported from abroad.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, in a service-oriented economy.
The top 0.1% of finances and so on.
Like you're like an interior designer or something,
and the American Army and Air Force and Navy.
Like that's like a made-up role.
But America was shrinking, and the people.
And is moving towards that now, while we're like lying to people, moving towards back towards a manufacturing economy for no reason.
Lower today than it was in 1974. Now you only have to say that to make the point.
Ideally, we would be like at this point in the development of this human society, we would be automating manufacturing. China is moving manufacturing to like Vietnam and stuff. Like they should be on too. And then you move towards a service or while also, or you know, like starting to
that also adds to the significance of this techno-feudal hypothesis.
Generally decrease.
They are the only ones. They are not the only ones. These American techno-feudal lords who own lots of cloud capital.
Because that's what's going to have to happen here
in China. Yeah. And we have all noticed the increasing tensions between the West and China.
That was what I was going to ask.
Which comes from the West, because it doesn't come from China, it comes from the West. It's a one-sided intensification of tensions. Why? Because, this is my estimation, the American techno-feudal class are very scared of the cloud capital of China because it can threaten the dominance of the American dollar.
We saw that with the AI model that came out of China, and instantly the kind of stock market in the US just shook, didn't it? Over
That was just a preemptive event. This was a walk in the park compared to what is going to come, because that was simply.
Oh my God!
DeepSeek, this is a Chinese company, effectively offered all of us for free that which.
Are you serious?
OpenAI charges $20.
Yeah, I can't avoid it.
So that caused the American cloud capital to tank in the stock exchange in the United States. But what the American authorities and big tech worry about is something much bigger, and that is payment systems. Because in the United States, in Europe, we have digital money, right? I mean, you pay for your coffee using your phone and so on, but it's all linked to some bank. You have to have an account with Barclays, with UBS, with Lloyds, with Deutsche Bank, or whatever. Okay, and they charge you a leg, and they charge outlets and vendors and so on. In China now, there is something called WeChat. There's an app that allows you to make free payments, and there is also a central bank app that you can download, and you can have an account with your central bank. Imagine if you could have an account with the Bank of England that gave you high interest rate, and it was completely safe and charged you nothing.
Yeah.
Why would you have an account with Barclays Bank? You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Unless Barclays offered you something that now it's not offered. So, Western financial capital and big tech are really very scared of that. And in my estimation, in my mind, the reason why.
Come on, fuck you.
It's
exactly what I didn't need right now.
Not Taiwan. It was not the rise of the Chinese Navy in the South China Sea or anything like that. It was the rise of the cloud capital, the techno-feudal forces within China.
For someone who writes so much about big economic and political structures, Yanis's work has always had a personal touch.
His book, Talking to My Daughter, A Brief History of Capitalism, was addressed to his daughter, and Techno-Feudalism is written as an address to his dad. He takes that much further in his latest book, Raise Your Soul. It is, in his words, a collection of stories of resistance drawn from the experiences of several women in his family. Within that are recollections of living through past dictatorships and moments of right-wing dominance, which he suggests might help us live through some similar political formations.
Oh, come on!
Some of the most fascinating moments for me came in his recollections of family members who had been swept up in the false promises of these regimes. I wanted to ask Yanis what he thought the appeal of right-wing politics was and is, and how family members who might be even quite close to one another personally can find themselves being pulled in very different directions politically.
So your new book, Raise Your Soul, tells these kind of...
Oh, come on, no! Fuck me. Dude,
kind of people persevering through...
Yeah, I'm going again,
women persevering through kind of various different hard times.
You're trying to focus on healing.
And resisting against kind of oppressive structures. I was really interested that also in some of those stories, you also try and understand why often it's because all of these women are members of your family, and then kind of like other members of your family who might have been siblings, might be husbands, kind of actually felt
I'm caring about this. Like I can't even move on.
Actively enthused by them. We're sort of here talking about Jeff Bezos and talking about Trump and all of these people kind of as these kind of horrible sort of pantomime villains maybe, and yet some people feel really infused by these movements. What do you think the
maybe get rid of the stain
appeal is of whether it's Trumpism or whether it's kind of like Elon Musk mania? What do you think the appeal?
Oh shit! I usually have that for
advanced technology is invigorating. I tell a story in this new book of when my mother and her brother, they were young teenagers. It was 1941, and they heard the roar of the Stukas, the Messerschmitts, the Luftwaffe over Athens. They were going to bomb British and Greek vessels in the port of Piraeus. And my mother, to her horror, realized that her brother, who was a 14-year-old boy, was jumping up and down and applauding the Nazis. It wasn't because he didn't know what Nazis was. He was a 14-year-old boy, but he loved the machine. You know, the flying machine. It was like a symbol of modernity, of progress. Humans had managed to conquer the skies, to fly like birds. And for it's really very easy to be caught up in this. And, I recognize that. So, the idea that as we speak, there are algorithms developed by big tech that design antibiotics that can kill horrible bacteria that in turn kill human beings in hospitals, and which are absolutely resistant to antibiotics that human beings have designed. So there are algorithms that design antibiotics that the best human minds cannot design, and that with these antibiotics we are saving human lives. That's invigorating. Yeah. That's to be celebrated. That we need to celebrate this as a triumph of the human spirit, not of the machine. But at the same time, and this is something my father taught me, and this is why my book on techno-feudalism was addressed to him as a long letter. But when I finished writing that book on AI, the lure of technology, and also the danger of technology, it's a double-edged sword, right? Every technology can be used for ill or for good. The question that decides whether it's for ill or for good is who owns it and how do they use it. When I finished writing this, I thought, okay, well, I've talked a lot about my dad, but what about my mom, who was my political mentor? And I felt really ashamed of myself. Here's a boy talking about his dad. My mother was the one who really shaped me as a political and moral being. So I decided I'm going to, especially at the time around 2023, when I was a bit depressed by the state of the world, the genocide, Palestine, the war in Ukraine, my electoral defeats in Greece, my party's electoral defeats. It was a pretty nasty moment. I don't usually get depressed, but there was a moment when I nearly became depressed. So I reacted by saying, okay, I'm going to write out my mom's story. And then that wasn't enough, because then, I needed to carry on telling the story. A story of resistance. I mean, the subtitle originally was going to be 5 women who taught me how to resist authoritarianism, fascism, and the male chauvinist within. But,
oh, come on, ow!
But I'm repeating it so that you know what the intention was.
Yeah.
So then I started telling the story of my father's mentor, who was my father's mentor. And to cut a long story short, there are 5 parts to this book. Each one is dedicated to one woman in my family. The last one is my wife. And through their eyes, it's a kind of memoir of the last 100 years, without me in it, trying to tell the story through their eyes, because, one of the great lessons from second-wave feminism in the 1970s is that the personal is political. And by telling the story of, what was going on in my own family, nobody cares about what happened in my family, not even I. But you are telling, if you tell it well, a story about the world we live, about all these contradictions of technologies that are simultaneously liberating and enslaving, of families that are torn between the left and the right, couples that are caught up in patriarchy. I don't know about you. You're too young for me to know or to presume to know about your socialization when you were a kid. But my generation, we were socialized as boys through misogyny.
Yeah.
Because the misogyny between us boys and the homophobia that made us men. We talked nastily about women, therefore proving that we were growing up. And that is an extremely oppressive way of growing up as a boy, because, the only way to oppress others, women, is to oppress yourself. So for me, feminism, that's what my mother taught me. My father's mother taught me. even though I never met her, but through her writings and through her activism, that feminism is not about liberating women only. It's about liberating us, men, from patriarchy. So it's a stream of consciousness, that this book, Raise Your Soul. And I'd like it to be seen as a story about the here and now. We have the resurgence of the manosphere, the fascism in the air, the Farages and the Trumps, and the radical center, which is Keir Starmer is warming the seat, the Downing Street for Farage. I mean, we have a center left that is simply, in a sense, they could not do a better job at paving the ground for fascism than they are. So even though I'm not explicitly talking about this, I would like to think of this as a book which elucidates, it throws useful light upon all of our predicaments.
I think seeing it through those human eyes is really interesting. I mean, yeah, I was really taken by the story of your mother and your uncle, and as you say, like both siblings who are experiencing the same things, but kind of drawn in very different directions in their response to the kind of authoritarian sort of society in which they were living. Do you have any, having spent time reflecting on it, writing the book, do you have any advice for people out there who are having to like exist around family members or otherwise loved ones who might be, cheering on the planes, as it were, to kind of reference that chapter in the book where your uncle is excited about the planes coming?
This is the lesson that my mom taught me indirectly, and that is, she adored her father. She thought the world of him, because in the end he became a hero. He almost sacrificed his life against the fascist dictatorship under which I was growing up. At the same time, she got him a tad, a sexist pig, a lively bastard sometimes, right? So the lesson I learned from that is it's perfectly possible to love someone and be highly critical of them. You see, we live in a world where people are either cancelled or treated as heroes. No, nobody's a hero. Nobody is a complete loss for humanity. Everybody has different dimensions. We should and we could remain critical of our greatest mentors. We should be critical of it. I'm a Marxist.
God damn it!
Of my time, criticize Marx, because this is what you should do with your mentors.
True, he's right. I agree with that.
Your own family and with yourself. This is why
I don't get like why people don't like when like something they like media they don't like when it's criticized. Like when I like something, I want to criticize.
We human beings all have a fascist in us. A tendency towards the dark side, a tendency towards anger, a tendency towards.
But it's true, like Luxembourg, Marx,
and it's liberation.
It's like
freedom.
Like a friend whose ideas challenge her.
These battles within
like she doesn't just take it as gospel. She doesn't like dismiss it outright.
Complete atheist. But this idea of fighting satanic forces which are in our bosom is one that we atheists should adopt.
On this.
This is actually really, it's quite wobbly. I thought I'd wrap up my
damn, this is really hard, dude.
By asking him a little bit about what he thinks should and could be done about all of this.
Yanis has had a long political career. He was the finance minister of Greece during a crucial moment in the country's history in 2015, and is the secretary general of the Democracy in Europe movement.
I wondered if he could shed some light on why
quick
the left seems to be losing
okay, quick slash. I don't know if I need that. Okay.
And what he could be doing differently to fend off some of the trends that he's been talking to me about.
You've mentioned there Keir Starmer. You've talked about sort of political defeats, I guess, and to sort of bring us to a bit of a close, I guess. Why do you think that the left has been doing quite a bit of losing lately?
Not lately.
I don't want to be too pessimistic.
100 years at least.
Yeah, why for the last 100 years has the left been losing?
Well, changing the world is not an easy feat. The establishment doesn't need morality, doesn't need ideology. It has it's got a panoply of weaponry which is necessary in order to keep power. When you're trying to change the world, to carry out a revolution,
Actually, might be
an evolution, social revolution, whatever.
Basic.
Then, firstly, you have to go against the grain of power. That requires a degree of courage. It requires an epiphany that allows you to think, okay, life is not worth living unless I take huge risks with myself. Think of the trade unionists of the 19th century, mine workers. They were starving. Going on strike meant that their kids would go to bed without any food in their belly, that they would be shot by, or beaten up by police, would be fired. Now, it takes heroism to mount collective action for the betterment of society.
See what happens.
Now, the problem with this is that the moment you start making very large sacrifices personally, you start feeling that you're more deserving. And that brings out authoritarianism. So, for me, the Russian Revolution of 1917 was a great moment in human history. But very quickly, the revolution started devouring its own children. The communists created gulags for communists. They didn't create them for their class enemy. The communists were killing communists. And I try to tell the story in the book. There's a chapter 2, which relates lessons that I was taught from my father, who was in a concentration camp as a leftist. And he said to me when I was in my teens, he said, he could see that I was becoming a leftist. He said, yeah, of course we're leftists, but remember, if my side had won the civil war in Greece, I would probably be in the same concentration camp with different centuries, with left-wing centuries. So, and if you look at it historically, even the Christians who were a revolutionary movement.
Or do they not stack up as quick? You know what I'm saying? The enemies won't stack
authoritarianism of the local authorities in Palestine at the time, in Israel, and very soon after they started the movement, they started.
I don't think.
Calling each other.
Because you can manage.
Splitting up. 200 different churches. So this is the problem with anybody who wants to change the world. Every revolution ends up devouring its own children. But there's no alternative to the revolution, because the establishment, the status quo, is also undermining itself and leading humanity to war and climate catastrophe. So, we need to be revolutionaries. We're very suspicious of revolutionaries.
So what is your that was potentially a for someone who's just written a book about raising the soul, which is kind of full of these stories which are of resistance, but of I think you say towards the beginning about trying to kind of inspire some kind of hope amongst the darkness kind of thing. This book is sort of about you talk about raising the soul in the introduction, kind of describe it as sort of about finding hope amongst the darkness, I guess. Where for you lies the hope in all of the kind of bleakness of the world at the moment?
Well, a beautiful poem, lovely sunrise. These are the sources of hope. I make a very sharp distinction between optimism and hope. I don't think we have any right to be optimistic. To be optimistic, you need empirical evidence that things are going well. There is none. But at the same time, we need to never give up on hope, because it's the driving force for what life we have in us. So I wake up every morning knowing that I'm going to die. Not on the same day, I hope, but I'm going to die. So what? I still have a spring in my step every morning, and I try to be creative. Because,
bro, I wake up thinking that too, and I don't have a spring in my step. I need to know the secret to having a spring in your step when you're thinking that every morning.
Humanity is what makes life worth living.
Because that's exactly the opposite of how it's going for. I'm gonna be real.
Thank you so much to Yanis for agreeing to sit down and chat with me. As we maybe said in the interview, his new book is out now. As I said at the beginning of this video, this is a new format that we are trialing out. So let us know what you think of it. And if you would like to support us in experimenting with making new things like this, or with just making our sort of standard documentary style videos, then we would really appreciate you doing that as kind of serfs in a techno-feudal world of YouTubes and TikToks and Metas, etc. Support through Patreon is really vital in allowing us to continue doing what we do. So if you'd like to find out how you can do that, you can head to patreon.com/.
Okay, I'm fucked. I was totally out of it. I'm done. It's
really
rainy.
I think we need to, I think the camera will break if we keep filming. And then we
okay, I had Thorn. I don't know if this was helping me.
Thank you so much for watching this video once again. All that's left for me to do is to say a massive thank you to the people who support us in
getting rid of it.
Trying out new formats like this through being signed up to the top tier of my Patreon. And those people are...
I think this was helping me more, honestly. I'm gonna be real. Okay, and this too. And I'm gonna use spells.
Alexander Blank, Neil Zabildgard, Sophia R, Sergio Suarez, Richard Rapoon, Amit Singh Parahar, Gabriel Koch, Jimmy Dunn, Fiasco Linguini, Agent Maxwell, Glenn Sugden, Emil, Jarabar, Yillimson, Paulius Edicus, Sam...
A while back, I hosted a SciShow video about the physics of knitted fabric, and it got me in some trouble. We got a couple of factual things wrong in the video, which is never ideal, but the part that really upset people was not the mistakes, it was the tone of the video. In defense of the SciShow team, I think the intended vibe really was like, here's this everyday thing that looks super simple, but when physicists zoom in on it, it becomes astonishingly complex. But in doing that, the story that came across here was like, people who knit don't really understand what they're doing, and now the scientists are here to explain it. And yeah, that's bad, especially because that reflects a very long history of treating the work of textiles, which is like deeply skilled labor, a lot of innovation, as invisible or trivial or just like something people do with their hands, rather than what it is, which is like a foundational technology of civilization. And this is, of course, bad just on its own merit, but it's also bad because it shuts down curiosity and openness and excitement and marvel, which is the opposite of SciShow's goals, and also the opposite of my disposition. SciShow has internal systems for responding to critique. I will link to their
SciShow is associated with Marvel.
The words came out of my mouth. I'm not proud of how they represented that history. And I also got a lot of thoughtful feedback. And look, with any time this is happening, I totally understand this is a thing with every creator I know. It's very hard to understand which parts of the feedback you want to listen to and not feel defensive all the time. So it took me some time, but I got a lot of thoughtful feedback. Several people told me, dude, you need to read this book. And several books were recommended to me, but the one I saw the most was called The Fabric of Civilization. So I got it, and I read it, and look, sometimes people suggest to me books that are fine, and I'm glad that I read them. This book is so good. It is wild. It's a pretty fast read. It has completely reframed how I understand textiles, but also, like, technology. Like, after spending some time with this, textiles, to me, I think sit like right alongside agriculture, and also like happened along with agriculture. Like we think about meat animals and we think about food crops, but we also had textile animals and textile crops. So yeah, I think textiles sit alongside agriculture as like the second or third most powerful human technology after language. And this should not be a surprise or a mystery. Technology and textiles share the same linguistic root. Like
I have to do this one day. I'm literally, it's happening.
See them, which is why I was able to sort of badly misread the emotional territory of the SciShow script. And it's also why Pascal's book hit me so hard. So I reached out to her and I was like, would you like to have a chat with me about your book? But first, I let her know about the whole situation so she wasn't wading into some weird situation blindly. She graciously had zero qualms about the whole thing. And now I'm in the room with Virginia Pastrell, who is the author of The Fabric of Civilization. First of all, thank you for doing this. Thank you for writing this book. It's so fun. It's like perfect for me. It's got everything.
There are a lot of times in this where I'm stuck in like a single position and they start clouding around me. So I think like this will actually like literally clouding, not crowding.
For more than 40 years. A lot of my writing is around the intersection of commerce, culture, and technology. So I'm interested.
Well, that's all the things, Virginia.
Yeah, that is all the things. And this book is in some ways, like the most Virginia book ever. Because it's got history, it's got economics, it's got technology and science and culture and ingenuity and all of those kinds of things.
War and peace and the progress of humanity. So I want to hit you with two quotes from your book. One is from someone that you interviewed, referring to fabric as taking up the most valuable real estate in the world. the surface of our bodies.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, sure, I guess. I'd never thought.
I don't know
that
about
way.
that. I don't think that's true. Like mathematically,
beyond just function. But then I think also a quote from you: "Any sufficiently familiar technology is
maybe it is. I'm not sure. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it,
and turning it on its head.
Right.
I would have to have like you would have to have a lot of data on how expensive clothes are that people wear.
Textiles, it's particularly amazing because
and in what
they
percentage?
Were such a foundational technology and
I don't
as so vital at every point in human history. Now they're
okay.
gone.
I'm so fucked.
The complete forgetting.
Like literally, this is like the one thing I have to do. The beginning of everything is kill that one. I just have not done it.
Kid,
like listening to what's happening.
Were still, there were still miracle fibers, and your mom remembered when there wasn't permanent press, and there was still a fairly large textile industry in the U.S. As well as a lot of plants making things like nylon. And I mean, when I was born, my dad actually worked in a rayon as an engineer for a rayon company. So this has really happened recently, that the complete not thinking about where textiles come from. But it's also something that is woven through history.
One of the big things here is how invisible it is. And also the sort of like what that invisibility is hiding. How much of that is that like history is kind of dominated by and written by men, and a lot of this stuff is the work of women, or also the demand of women, like that, like consumption.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, it's certainly the case.
Jesus Christ, man! I think it's over. I think it's over for me. I think I'm gonna leave
into the history profession.
Like I have nothing else to do.
Existence of writing about women's lives.
There are a few more areas I have to check out, but like if I know that this hasn't been done, like I need to keep it going.
It's easier to research the history of textiles on some of these things. And if you go to a conference of textile archaeologists, it will be 90% women, which is interesting. I mean, everybody knows the few men who are in that field. On the other hand, textiles as economic history, there it's less gendered because it's been so central in economic history as as trade goods, as a source of industrial innovation, that sort of thing. So I think part of it is that, but the other thing is that the textile industries, and you have to just a lot of people, when you say textiles, they think of apparel. And when you're talking about the industry, it's really different because textiles is a capital intensive industry and apparel is a labor intensive industry. But both have largely left the developed world. And so you will be much more likely to find people in India or people in China who are thinking about textile technology. There's like 2 really good schools left in the U.S. that study textiles.
There are components of it that are heavily gendered, and and also probably culturally, this is very different. So like in European tradition, weaving in addition to spinning would also be often done by no.
No. In European tradition, women were actually prohibited most of the time from joining the weaving guilds. So weaving
makes sense.
Weaving was a male
Why not? Yeah, it's like an art,
the
right?
Women who wove were usually the wives or daughters.
Is it like cooking where like women have to weave all the clothes? China, like I would imagine that, right? That'd be how it'd be.
Saying men till women weave, and in
it's like cooking where like cooking women are expected like in terms of, like culture. Just have to be like great chefs expected. Like that's like what she's describing. It was shameful for women. They occasionally had to weave at their homes like on a daily basis. In culture.
India was primarily a men's occupation. I mean, spinning is the universally
so interesting. Yeah.
Female.
So why do you think it is such a hidden part of our story?
Well, I think it's partly. Well, I have a line in the book where I say we have textile amnesia because we enjoy textile abundance. I really think fundamentally that's the reason we don't think about it. If you go back, I have this book. I think it's from the 1940s or something. It's like I don't know. It reads like it was written as a textbook for junior high school or something. It's called Man as a Weaver. And it's all about textiles. And it was much more normal to teach about textiles in up until the, say, 1960s than it was, than it is today. As you know, it's just a thing you need to know. And one of the things that I was shocked when I started working on the book was how little the typical person, like the typical middle-aged person, knows about textiles. Like that weaving and that woven and knitted cloth are different. Like I grew up in a textile town in the 1960s and 70s, and
I did know that, but there is so much I feel like is very basic that I did not know.
Or that there's warp and weft.
Yes. I still have a hard time with warp and weft. They made those two words too similar to each other.
Okay, so here's how you remember it.
Okay.
Left goes from weft to right.
Oh, thank you. Perfect.
This is the propaganda we need.
You did it.
And the other.
This is the real propaganda. This is what we need to remember.
Warp sounds sort of like hard, and the warp thread is the thread is
tense one.
Oh, God damn it! I'm not paying attention.
Right. So I'll try to put some a graphic on the screen to help people understand what we're talking about right now. We're talking about looms. The introduction of your book is so great because you don't even call to the fact that you're using all of these metaphors. You're not like, here's a list of like textile-based metaphors that we use constantly, like threadbare.
My favorite being on tenterhooks.
Yeah, what the heck is a tenterhook?
When people would finish wool, so you'd make the cloth, and then there was a process called fulling where it would get wet and then it would be pounded on. Sometimes people walked on it, sometimes later on.
Get wet and then get pounded on.
And then you'd stretch it on these really scary
not funny.
pointy hooks around the edge. Not hooks.
It makes
really
so much
points.
sense.
My favorite textile word is that we go to space on a shuttle.
Yes, exactly.
One of the things that I'm, in terms of the most important human technologies, I think it's sort of undeniable that language is number one. I think that it is generally considered that, like, on the path to where we are today, agriculture is number two. I think that it gets pretty messy after that. When I think, like, in terms of sort of like step by step, fiber, cordage, textiles all happened before agriculture. They also played an important part in agriculture. We think about, the food agriculture all the time.
Really?
We don't think about that there are fiber animals and there's fiber crops that are very important and were part of the introduction of agriculture. But also, like, before anatomically modern humans, there was cordage. There was, like, figuring out how to turn fiber into
okay, come on. Why are they doing that?
Or whatever to do things with. And so that, to me, is like, well, this is pre-agricultural, and also maybe like a necessary step to get to agriculture.
Right. So the earliest string that's been found, and it's clearly string. I mean, you do have to look. It does need to be magnified, but it is not some random vine.
No!
It's
oh my God! Oh, I'm never gonna get through it. I hate this. I hate it.
Twisted strings and twist them together in the opposite direction.
Gotcha.
It's 50,000 years
Again,
old, and
keep throwing myself at it.
Neanderthal.
Yeah.
And the article was actually published between the time I submitted the first manuscript and the time I did the revision. So when I first read the book, the earliest string was 30,000 years old. Now it's 50,000. So there's an argument, which I don't make in the book because I don't think it's
not strong enough.
But I think it's that I believe, but I don't. Which is that it's actually textiles that make agriculture necessary. So string, you don't need agriculture to make string. You just need some
it has to happen.
source of fiber that you can rub between your hands or rub on your legs and make cordage from, and then you can twist those together if you need string. And it's a huge general purpose technology because once you have string, you can make fishing nets, you can make baby carriers, you can tie things up above the ground.
And I think, Virginia, that we were doing this so much. Like, this is what the majority of human time has been spent doing.
Yeah.
We were sitting around with each other, talking and making strings and weaving, and whether it's on like a loom or whether it's just like sitting around like making string into rope.
Yeah, so that's string. But as we mentioned peripherally,
Okay, shut the
to
fuck
make
up.
textiles,
Shut up, go away, go away, go away. Shut up, stop, go away.
And you need like good string that's like the right.
You need it to be strong and long. There's about 6 miles of cotton, yarn or string.
You fucking
in
for real?
A pair of blue jeans.
Yeah.
So that's 6
I'm
miles
so
before
fucking
the
done.
Industrial Revolution. The fastest and best spinners in the world who were in India, especially for cotton. One of them would take like 100 hours to spin enough for a pair of trousers. That takes a lot of cotton.
Yeah.
To make, I mean, like you basically you need agriculture in order to make textiles, and you need textiles in order to make clothes in a non-freezing climate. And there is an argument. There's a guy named Ian Gilligan who's in Australia who makes the argument that essentially textiles were invented as the Ice Age receded, because over all the time of the Ice Age, people had gotten used to wearing clothes made of fur and leather and animal skins and tailored to the body.
Yeah.
And that basically the Adam and Eve story is kind of right. Modesty was the reason. You can't keep on wearing those clothes when it's warm, because
Did we invent agriculture because we didn't want to be naked anymore?
something like that. There are people who don't agree with that.
Yeah,
but-
no, I thought,
but
like,
the
people said also it's
point
because of
is,
alcohol.
You can eat.
There's so many different
by hunting
theories
and
on that. It's really...
You can't make textiles by hunting and gathering because you can't get enough. That's the simplified version. That's my hypothesis, which is that agriculture is driven at least maybe in a majority part by...
And certainly a lot more than we think.
Yeah, a lot more than we think.
This is a question I try to always ask communicators when they're talking about the things they communicate about. So I am fascinated by what makes a good fact. In order to be a good fact, it has to actually, people have to care about it for some reason. So it might be relevant to their lives. It might be surprising.
Yeah, that's what makes the alcohol thing such a strong,
so like, what's the...
Because people you bring that up to, they've heard that before. There was like one documentary about it one time, but people all think about it.
Like,
alcohol. I love alcohol.
Indigo. And indigo is the blue that we now know best from blue jeans. Indigo is a crazy complicated process to get it to work. The chemistry is just unbelievable. But it was discovered all around the world in completely different and separated cultures using completely unrelated plants that happen to have the same chemicals in them. And the earliest indigo dyed cloth we have is 6,200 years old.
Wow.
And that, as I say in the book, 6,200 years ago, people were poor by any contemporary standard. And,
I'm so fucked.
And yet they went to a lot
Why
of
did I do
trouble
that?
to make this cloth that has indigo stripes and also has 2 other colors. It has sort of tannish brown, which is the natural color of cotton. And it has a white, which is from a local plant.
Yeah.
That
come on!
Care about more than function going way back.
I'm getting worse at it, honestly. I've already cleared this before.
In terms of chemistry, I'd love to do an
part,
episode about this actually, but like one of the kind of the first chemical, like obviously the first chemical was hydrogen, like diatomic hydrogen at the beginning of the universe.
In the creation of the universe.
Yeah, but like when you say chemical, there's like a thing that we mean. So like created synthetically and at scale. And kind of the first chemical is like mauvine.
We can have a long, interesting conversation about what is the first chemical, even as you define it. So there was this period in
I knew she was going to say that.
Where
diatomic hydrogen. I don't know about that. I don't know that's the first chemical.
Been developed as a science, and people were fooling around, and there was a lot of this waste product from.
There were probably some
like refining
right on the line.
People were wrong idea, but people would
in the Big Bang, in the fusion process,
lights and stuff. And there was this waste product called coal tar.
Terrible
that was
stuff.
Produced by that.
Yeah.
And people think this could be a useful chemical source for things.
Sure.
And there's this young guy named William Perkin, who's 19-year-old chemistry student in London, studying under a German professor.
I try to go after those guys first, but now I'm like freaking out and like getting kind of put off by them.
He's home on Easter vacation, and he is fooling around
Not these
with
guys,
coal tar and trying to make quinine.
Although I'm gonna die again.
An anti-malarial drug. His experiments fail. He gets this black precipitate. He, for whatever reason, decides to dissolve it in denatured alcohol, and it turns purple. And so he thinks, ha ha.
This is amazing news.
I'm living in a country where the major industry is textiles. Maybe this could be a dye. Maybe I could, start a company and make a lot of money.
Those guys.
So he asks around.
How do they shoot it? It's really annoying to dodge.
In fact, purple's kind of having a fashion moment, and there isn't good purple dye for silk and cotton. Makes his discovery in 1856. Remarkably, within 4 years, mauve is everywhere. That's what he calls it, is purple dye. But he essentially has to not only invent this chemical, he sort of has to invent chemical engineering, because he has to scale up. He has to invent the processes and the apparatuses. Apparatuses, whatever the plural.
Sure. Apparati.
For doing it at scale, which is quite a challenge. But he succeeds, and then once we have mauve, which is this purple dye, which he wanted to call Tyrian purple. Once people see this, then everybody starts making dyes. And there's green, and there's blues, and there's reds, and eventually there, synthetic indigo. Yeah. And that becomes the basis for the chemical industry. That's the beginning of the modern chemical industry. And that leads to a lot of chemists being hired. And then once you have all these chemists, what else can they come up with? And they do come up with a lot of drugs and adhesives and photographic chemicals eventually, and all of these things. But, so Bayer, for example, invented aspirin. They started as a dye works.
And I want to tie back to your fact also that like indigo getting discovered separately in all these different cultures. The thing that I realized is that like not every civilization has like a Bronze Age.
Right.
But they all have like textile ages. And one of the maybe the big reasons why we don't talk about it that way is just because they don't preserve archaeologically. Like bronze and
that's an interesting way to think about it. Yeah, like clothing is something that humans all seem to like that's basically what he's saying, right? Like cloth and stuff. We all
like in Peru, it's very dry.
Clothing.
They go away.
Yeah, there are two ways that textiles can be preserved as textiles. One is in a very dry.
It would be hard to keep in a historical record.
The oldest textiles have been found in Israel,
and so its influence could be hard to gain.
Peru is a great source of early textiles. The other thing is there are bogs in Europe where it's an anaerobic environment, and so there are textiles preserved there. But the result is there are places in the world that we have no textile archaeology from, or it's it's the earliest textiles we have are medieval, something like that, as opposed to really.
And that doesn't mean there weren't any others. That's exactly. There were things happening.
That's
the point.
Let's say you have
it could have had an influence that we aren't aware of. There could have been
that was wrapped in a textile. And the textile goes away. You'll often get some kind of like oxidized imprint on it. But up until like the 1980s, it wasn't unusual for archaeologists to clean off these remnants of the textiles because they didn't even think about textiles.
So not just we didn't see them because they weren't there, but we didn't see them because we couldn't imagine their importance.
I mean, another example, and this was one of the facts that sort of inspired me to think there was a book, was these linear B tablets in Knossos in Crete, which is one of the great archaeological sites. And there are all these tablets and the
they pronounce that? If that's Knoss. Okay, no,
which I won't tell.
What I'm talking about.
It's one of the stories of archaeology and languages. Yep. Well, it turns out 2/3 of these tablets are about textiles.
Yeah.
So I met this woman who started as a linguist and historian on these tablets, and then she realized she's got to learn about textiles. She, with 2 other people, started this Center for Textile Research at the University of Copenhagen.
Would it have been linen? Would it have been flax? What?
It depends on where you are.
Yeah.
There are different parts of the world that have characteristic fibers. And so in, say, the Middle East, you get a lot of linen. In Europe, you get linen eventually, but especially you get wool.
Yeah.
East Asia, you get
Oh, come on.
And silk. Silk is unbelievably old, which is amazing.
Silk is crazy. The fact that we have an agricultural bug. So first of all, I didn't even know that linen was from a different plant until I read this book. I'm coming from the early stuff. But then silk, like all of these agricultural, like wool, these fibers are going to be, like at most a few feet long. Right. And then silk, how long is a silk thread? Strand.
These days, miles. It's a filament.
Like one filament that came out of the butt of one bug.
Yeah, right. So you get one cocoon. I mean,
I'm fucked.
I mean, in the 21st century, there's been a lot of hybridization.
Have we bred them? We've bred them too. Okay, yeah.
But it would be miles. It wouldn't have been this long, 1,000 years ago, or whatever. Yeah. But it's a filament in the same way that polyester is a filament. You then twist it, but it's not called a fiber in the same way that a little cotton, a little cotton fiber is, inches maybe. and I should say, when I was going around the world, cotton was the fiber in India, parts of sub-Saharan Africa, and in Latin America. It was one of the major fibers, and there's a whole crazy story about
cotton. Is very weird.
Why? There's lots of fun facts about cotton.
I have a favorite fact, and we're going to get to it eventually. But and have I asked any but two of my questions yet? No, because there's just too much to talk about. But we're hitting all of the things I want to hit. So there's just that's like a wild difference that I had never considered, and also the fact that you have to untangle silk cocoon. You don't just like cut them up and make fibers out of it. You untangle this entire.
Yeah, it's sort of, there's like a sticky kind of gluey substance that holds it together, so that gets dissolved in warm water, and then you have to reel it very carefully.
Craziness. Okay, so I'm going to tell you my fact that I took, that I immediately.
No, God damn it! No, I'm never writing it.
It took significantly, like much more time, both in like years of like time it takes from start to finish, and in terms of human hours being spent on the project to make the sail for a Viking warship than to make the Viking warship. The bottleneck was not timber and carpenters and woodworking. The bottleneck was sheep and wool and spinners.
Yeah, and so that's shearing or plucking the sheep. It's cleaning the wool. It's spinning the wool. It's weaving the wool, and then it's sewing the woven panels.
Yeah, because you can't make it the size that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you see this is the Indian print behind me, but this is about how wide the panels that were woven on a traditional loom
no,
in
it's
the
not.
Viking era would have been.
I had to do it this way.
And the thing is, I will confess, I watched the entire series of the TV show Vikings, just like I think six, maybe 7 seasons. There's a long show. Is the point.
And you're just like waiting. You're like, when they gonna get to the wool?
Well, no, I know this at the time I was watching the show, but it's in all of those episodes, there is one shot of a loom in the background. And so it's like, what did they do?
That's actually a good part about Vinland Saga. I haven't watched the anime, but if you read he does like a bunch of research about like what exactly is like how their societies function, and like what he needed to have in the background of every single panel, literally, like how their society functioned and like how their houses were built and everything. So much detail, so much attention to detail, and that I don't think most people really.
Wow. Yeah.
Just because they wouldn't know, especially like if you haven't seen those kind of like annotations.
Starts in the 1400s. Those sails would have all been made entirely by hand and would have been very laborious to make.
And all of the cordage too. Like how much rope is on that boat.
I do like that because it's hard to hit
that stuff. Yeah.
I like it. It's like a veil has lifted. It's just like there's so much of the world that of history that I could not see because this thing is so invisible to us. There's a section on the book early on about spinning and about how sort of integral to life it was, because textiles are so important, not just for clothes, but also for exploring the world.
Okay.
Flour sacks. I mean, there were barrels too, but there were lots of things
like war, you know, like you need to outfit the armies. So very important, like really integrated into society. Everybody's spinning. As like every woman is spinning.
All the women.
Yeah. And I had in my head a picture of like, okay, who's spinning yarn? It's old, poor women. And this is a totally inaccurate picture.
Getting like more tired and worse at this by the minute.
Because those
like,
are the last people.
Oh my god, it's 2 a.m.
So that's sort
Whatever,
of like
I'm gonna finish
the last image that we carried forward. Because as you know, as the craft left us.
So first of all, who was spinning? All women, all the time.
Yeah. The noble women. Young women were like spinning in public so that men would come and court them.
Yeah, right. I mean, women would have these spinning bees at night, and then guys would come and hit on them. Greek prostitutes would spin between clients, and there are pictures. You know, there's pictures in Western art. There's every kind of woman who can be spinning is spinning. The Virgin Mary is spinning. Prostitutes are spinning. Everyone in between is spinning. I think your hypothesis might be correct, because if you think about when the Industrial Revolution starts and you get spinning machines in the late 18th century in the North.
Oh my God.
Particularly young women go into those factories and work. But older, you know, if you were an old lady like me, only in the 18th century, I would have been a lot older.
You're probably would have been through more.
Right. You're not gonna. I would have died multiple times, actually. We can talk about that on a different show. But you probably weren't retrained for this new job. And there still would be some market, the wage you would get or the price you would get for spinning. It was usually
right. The factories would have driven the prices way down.
Would have been driven down. And in fact, there is this very sad, often quoted letter or something from an Indian widow. You know, she was a widow and she didn't have any source of income.
Okay, I'm so fucked. Why am I doing this?
To marry off her daughters, she was able to get enough, but now the yarn comes in from Manchester and she can't make a living. But she has to admit that this yarn is at least as good as what she makes, you know. And so it is quite possible that that's why you had the old ladies spinning by the fire kind of image. But it really was everybody's, all the women, right? And we have these codices from the sort of pre-Columbian life in Mexico, and we know that Aztec women, they talk about what the boys are being taught to do and what the girls, and the girls start to learn to spin when they're 4. Not that they would be doing a very good job at 4. You know, the Industrial Revolution, which set off the whole great enrichment of the world, you know, starts with spinning machines. And I think in a way it could have started with something else, but the fact that it was spinning and particularly spinning cotton meant that it had big ripple effects through the rest of the economy and society.
So speaking of that, and speaking of this letter that this Indian woman wrote, we are now in a world where it is difficult to imagine a world where textiles are not abundant. So like you could totally go to Goodwill right now and you could see someone like in your town, you could do this right now, and you could see a human person dropping off trash bags.
I don't even think it matters anymore. Like
at the Goodwill.
Like what I have equipped doesn't matter.
In every town in America right now. Like an individual garment might have at one point been like the most expensive thing a person owned. So we did this transition from this being like the thing I'm wearing right now could have been the most expensive thing I own.
And you would be in danger of, like, when you hung it out to dry in your laundry.
Oh, for sure.
Stolen. So a lot of what we know about how much garments
I
cost
should actually just go
is from the Old Bailey records of criminal.
Oh my God! You brought up the Old Bailey records. I have an Old Bailey.
I think I was
story
best
for
off
you.
with my original build too. That's the
did
worst
this-
part about that.
I'll get back to my point in a second, which is going to be about artificial intelligence. But first, let's talk about this. So I years ago I went back because there are these 7 people who were the first people to be experimented on with variolation, so like early vaccines. So with smallpox variolation, and they were 7 criminals in the Newgate jail, which is, if you go to the Old Bailey, which is the place in London, it's like the international, it's like the criminal court in London. That's where the Newgate jail used to be. So there's these 7 people, and I like looked up their arrest records because you can do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, these first 7 people to ever get the smallpox vaccine in variolation, slightly different thing, in Europe. And so I was like, okay, what do these people do? One of them was a pickpocket. One of them stole from her. She was like a housekeeper, and she stole from the person
they
whose
were
house
like
she was keeping.
human experiments or something?
All stole textiles. They all of them. They stole a riding hood or a bolt of cloth or some leather. This was before I was recording these kinds of conversations. But I got on the phone with like a historian of prisons, and I was like, "Why are they all like? What was this like a weird outlier?" And he was like, "No. That was like the most transferable form of wealth. It was a lot. There was a lot of money in it, and it was easy to move from one place to another and then resell. So it was a very common theft item.
And you could also pawn. I mean, and people did. I mean, even George Orwell in down
Jesus Christ.
Paris and London, he would pawn his coat periodically when he needed money. I mean, and that's like in the 20th century.
The thing I want to talk about is so we found ways to make textiles super abundant and super cheap, and it is a story of going from scarcity to abundance in a really concrete way that is now like, I feel like we're not noticing it, because I mean, I think that this is part of this conversation with the Luddites and the actual Luddites, the historical Luddites. First of all, can you speak a little bit, we've already done this some, but like to how central textile labor was in people's lives, like the labor itself in people's lives?
Well, a huge amount of the economy was people working in one way or another in textiles. It's the biggest industry in many countries for a long time. And when I say for a long time, I mean after the Industrial Revolution too.
Yeah.
It's because there are all these stages. So it's a big part of agriculture. There's the cleaning and processing. So, cotton gins, that's a separate business with people working in them. And then it's the spinning mills or the individual spinning. And then it's the weaving. And again, that there's like a generation where there's mechanical spinning and the weavers are riding high and making a lot of money without having a scarcity of yarn, which had been the case before. And then comes mechanical looms, and that's when you get the Luddites. But the funny thing about the Luddites is they're the beneficiaries of an earlier wave of technology.
Yeah.
And they're not ideologues. They don't hate technology. It's not like...
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this a lot. If you haven't heard before, the Luddites were like kind of opposed to the tech, how it was being used in the way AI is today, in terms of like furthering
with power
the advancement of capital without helping the people, the working class, that much, and eliminating their jobs.
It's a huge percentage of any economy. It was the representation of industry in Western art was a woman spinning, and that was because production of cloth is a huge thing. And really up until probably the 1980s, I haven't looked it up, but textiles and apparel would account for a large percentage, much larger than today, of an American family's annual budget. Now it's basically nothing.
Depends on the household probably, but yeah.
Yeah.
So we've done, this transition is like a very solid part of our history. I think since we're headed into a moment where maybe like a lot of the labor currently done by humans right now might in 10 or 20 or 50 years, I don't know what the numbers are, but it might be done by like software and robots. That to me kind of seems like very current and unprecedented, but this is definitely precedented. Like the industrialization of textiles is it accessible, fairly recent precedent. I don't know if you feel at all positioned to talk about that, but
it's not doing that much damage.
I feel like you might actually be more well positioned than a lot of people who
doesn't do
are
that much
spending a lot of
damage.
time talking about it right now.
I mean, I think about it from 2 points of view. First of all, this is not completely unprecedented in the sense that this textile transition to the Industrial Revolution, basically, was a huge upheaval in a fairly short period of time when society was much, much poorer. The other thing that I think a lot about, partly because I did learn to hand weave as a result of the book, and that's a thing I do as a hobby. I think that these kinds of physical activities, making activities, will enjoy a resurgence, not as economic activities necessarily, although you might have them. Or the
She's talking about AI, because I agree with it.
But as you know, if you have more leisure, one thing you might do with that leisure is learn how to do woodworking or make cloth or that sort of thing. It is an upheaval. I mean, there's no question that when people have spent their lives learning how to do a particular thing well, and this goes to your question about the old lady spinner. You know, if you're young, then you go to work in the spinning mill. If you're old, you just keep doing what you were doing, and it's worth less. My personal view is the only way to deal with it is to go through it and to try to ease the difficulties as much as you can.
Oh my god, I can't take it anymore, man. I hate this.
Country and rich society, and
no,
we're not in
the
18th
cloud
century.
sucks too. I don't like it.
Should
Not
make
working
it
as well.
easier. But people who have been thinking themselves, you know, superior human beings because of their technical chops, you know, their ability to write code, for example, may end up like the Luddites, the original Luddites. That is, they were the beneficiaries.
Oh yeah, they're totally gonna end up. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Of technology, and now they will be the losers. And you know,
because it's never really the absolute state that you're in. It's comparative to where you once were, the status that other people have in society versus the status you have in society. It's all very
Fortune's wheel turns.
Yes, Fortune's wheel turns. One of the things that I found really important about this book is that the history of textiles, you know, from you know, the first little strings to ridiculous innovations happening right now, has so many like incremental little things and then giant leaps forward and then incremental little things and giant leaps forward. Like, I feel like there's like lots of lessons in there, both in terms of how humanity builds upon itself, like its capabilities and its knowledge, but also like what happens when that happens.
I can do this, I swear, Jesus Christ.
Stories in here about asymmetries in power, whether that's internal to a society. You know, obviously the slave trade was a very a big part of textiles. That's definitely the case in, you know, European society, but it's also the case in other societies. You've got like forced migration involved in this, but then also you've got like internal to society power structures when it comes to gender, and then these moments when big changes happen, it usually is accompanied by disruption, by upset, by riots, by like things that we've forgotten about.
And sometimes the results are not what people expect. So, for example, you know, Jacquard invented this attachment for looms that made it much easier to weave complex patterns, and a lot of people know its relation to the history of computing.
Yeah.
And he was feted by the government and stuff for this great invention, but he was run out of Lyon, which was the weaving capital. But then eventually the weavers in Lyon adopted this attachment. They moved to a different part of the city. They became very powerful, sort of. They were the labor aristocrats, and they had a lot. I mean, they were kind of the really anachronistic, but sort of like the labor unions with a lot of clout and a lot of political influence. You know, they were a seed of radicalism too, but it was because they had mastered that technology.
That one thing that keeps you still.
They think it's going to disadvantage them, then they
never might be useful,
and it becomes
like when
more
you
powerful. I mean, that's obviously
keeps
not
you
what always
recoiling,
and you can't see it. You can't know which way it's going to go. And you definitely can't see what's going to happen. I want to ask you if this project has given you what you feel like is maybe some unique insight into how innovation happens.
Well, I think that one of the insights that I've gotten from this is that every society and every culture across time and space has some really smart, innovative people in it, which then leads you to think about like, what are the conditions, this is beyond the scope of the book, but what are the conditions that leading to a takeoff, which is a big question in economic history. And my friend Joel Mokyr recently won the Nobel Prize in economics for his work on this, but that it's not a lack of brain power, and it's not even a lack of the desire to innovate, because that seems to exist. Again, it may not be the dominant.
It's like inadequate equilibrium.
But there's enough of that, that leaven that you need to create really extraordinary things. And then the question is, when does that lead to sort of broader prosperity and continuing innovation, and when does it not? So that's one thing. And then another thing is, I just always feel like we underplay the importance of aesthetic innovation. That is, innovation that may not change function, but changes the pleasure and meaning that people derive from stuff. And you even see that in software. What has happened with video gaming.
The aesthetics is such an interesting point, because I think that that's also a very easy thing to miss. It's very easy to think of everything as a technical innovation and not to think of it as how it actually integrates, not just with like human bodies, but with our minds and with our culture, and how culture is constantly evolving. And there's so many, like, there's a lot of stories in the book about like times when people were like, no, we can't let this happen. We can't let these fabrics from other places into our markets. We can't let this new technology into our market. We have to protect, and it never works. That's the main thing, is that you.
One of the examples, and I have a video about this on my YouTube channel, but is the fabric prohibition. There's fabrics like this, which, and this is a dark one, but a lot of them were made light versions for the European markets, were very threatening to existing textile makers in Europe. When they came from India, even though there were Europeans who were importing them. There was the East India Company.
Oh my God, I'm gonna die. I hate it. I can't take this anymore. Okay, I'm out.
They really went right out, and they not only prohibited imported cotton prints from India, they prohibited all cotton imports from India, even plain cloth, and all prints, even if they were made on French.
Right. So, because how could you tell if it's just like, let's have none of this, because that way we know anytime we see it, it's illegal.
And they treated it, and these were not. This is not tariffs.
Yeah.
There were a lot of tariffs.
Yeah.
This was like cocaine.
Yeah.
They treated these fabrics the way we treat cocaine, and with similar scofflaw. Anyway, so
similar flaunting of breaking the rules occasionally.
Particularly among the powerful of wearing of this.
And the sumptuary laws. I know that I love this so much, because I think a lot about like different ways to tax people that like they don't feel as bad about. This is, I think, an important conversation right now. People like the sort of salience of a tax, like property tax feels like a big thing because you pay it in one big lump sum. Sales tax feels a little less. VAT taxes, like they have in Europe, feel like you never really notice them at all, so you don't feel like you're paying them. But like my favorite tax of all time is saying to a person, no, you can't wear that unless you give us money, and then you're just sort of paying the government a tax that you want to pay so that you can wear a specific hem.
Yes, and this is so sumptuary laws. They're a kind of law that's popular in many different societies, and usually they're about establishing a class hierarchy.
Like if you're not in this class, you can't wear this clothing.
If you're not in this class, if you're a merchant in China, you cannot wear silk. If anybody in your family is a merchant, you cannot wear silk. It's very hierarchical. And so when I write about sumptuary laws, I contrast the way they work in different societies. And one of the weird things about sumptuary laws is there were all these sumptuary laws in these basically merchant-run city-states in Renaissance Italy. But these were the very people who are usually being kept down by sumptuary laws. They were trying to basically create a cartel. They were like salary cap, if you will, against the demands of their women, of their wives and daughters.
Whoa! They were saying like, oh nope, we're not allowed to buy that expensive thing.
There were things with like in a dowry, if it was fabrics and clothes, the woman owned it. If it was money, cash, the husband got it, and people would use these to finance their businesses and stuff. But anyway, but it kept breaking down, partly because the women would find ways around it, but also because, people have various pressures, status things. And so first they started putting on fines. If we catch you with this, too many buttons or slashed sleeves, or one of my favorites is too short of tunics on men. So if it was like wearing this thing that's like a mini skirt,
showing a little more thigh.
You have to pay show your fine legs. That was a thing, men showing off
I think
their
we should do
legs.
it more. I think there's not enough men showing off legs right now.
It was a big thing up until like the 19th century, basically.
We'll bring it back.
But over time, these fines became exactly what you were talking about. It becomes a fee, a tax. And they become very dependent on them to finance their, their military expenses and stuff. They need people to buy the fancy fabric.
And to have the short tunics for the men. It's like a war financed by men's short skirts.
Unfortunately, my picture of that didn't make it into the book, but you can find, if you comb through Renaissance art, you can find depictions of these very short tunics that
people are going to feel like they have learned so much from this conversation that there's no way that they could get a lot from the book, but there's so much more. There's so much we haven't talked about. Virginia, thank you so much for giving me so much of your time.
Pleasure. As you can tell, I love to talk about this stuff.
The book is The Fabric of Civilization, and you can get it where books are sold.
Shit. Damn it.
The Hegseth scandal is growing. There's two things that are going on, and I want to read from Spencer Ackerman's piece on this. Spencer is been a long-time national security reporter. We've had him on this program. Very worth reading both his books and checking out his writing, which I believe is on
Literally
Ghost.
supposed to be my safe space.
And he cites a working group of former judge advocates general that convened after Hegseth action this year to fire senior Army and Air Force JAGs. These are essentially the DOJ of the military. I don't know how else to really do. Yeah, they're lawyers. And they put it.
Dude, I hate trying to measure how these guys move.
Statement
so fucking
on the strike. If the U.S. is at war, in quotes, in the waters near Venezuela, as Hegseth insists, then the double tap ordered by the commander of JSOC, that is who Hegseth claims ordered it, is an unambiguous violation of the law of armed conflicts prohibition on killing survivors of a military operation. So in other words, a war crime. But if the U.S. is not in such a state of war, as the Justice Department insists for the purpose of denying congressional authority over war. So understand, one part of Trump's regime says we're at war. The one that deals with legality says we're not, and so Congress doesn't have authority over it. Then Hegseth, Bradley, and everyone from the Secretary of Defense down to the individual who pulled the trigger are simply murderers. And that's why, to even call this a war crime, it seems to me to be unsettled because it's not clear that we're at war. This is a crime.
Yeah.
But here is Hegseth bragging about it. Now, this is back in September, before I think Hegseth started to realize,
he could still taste the blood in his mouth. Yeah, and by blood, I mean Bloody Mary.
So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right? a very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua,
Oh my God, you gotta be
terrorist
fucking
organization
kidding me.
designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs.
How did you, if you knew that, how about you reveal the evidence? Because they were claiming there was fentanyl on the boat. They haven't revealed that evidence either. Fentanyl's not produced in Venezuela. If you're talking about drug trafficking, it's more cocaine. And they're still not even basically showing the ties to so-called Tren de Aragua for many of these.
Because they made them up.
Let's go to 11. This is Chris Murphy on Pete Hegseth, who is now passing the buck to Mitch Bradley for the second boat strike. But again, you know, we're accepting the premise that this is anything but
Oh my God, I'm so fucked, dude. I hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I'm
I
fucked.
think that the reason that they're using the war crime thing as the baseline is because that's basically irrefutable. Even if you want to take the Trump administration's insane premise at face value, you're still on sound legal footing to call it a war crime.
Right.
Because the premise that they're pushing is the idea that we're already at active war with Venezuela. Now you would need Congress to declare war. You can't just change Secretary of Defense to Secretary of War and call it a day. But even if you were to grant them this crazy premise, because since 9/11, you know, the authorization for the use of military force has basically been in the hands of the executive branch, it would still be a war crime. But to your point, it's just murder.
But here's Murphy.
Reacting to this tweet in real time. Yeah.
So Secretary Hegseth has just posted something that I wanted to ask you about. He said, let's make one thing crystal clear. Admiral Mitch Bradley is an American hero, a true professional, and has my 100% support. I stand by him in the combat decisions he has made on the September 2nd mission and all others since. America is fortunate to have such men protecting us. When this Department of War says we have the back of our warriors, we mean it. Okay, let me just translate this into... He's pinning this on Bradley.
God damn it.
Okay, he's that's what that's about, right? I mean, where do you see this headed?
He is passing the buck. He sort of sees the freight train that is coming, right? That both Republicans and Democrats
dude. Oh my God, I was so close that time.
An illegal,
that has to be close, right? Am I close? Am I getting close?
Immoral act, and he's shifting the blame. It's the opposite of the buck stops here. And boy, it's a chilling signal to everyone in the chain of command that the Secretary of Defense does not have your back. Now, in this case, it seems likely that he actually did give the order, that he gave the order to kill everyone on that boat.
There's nothing else to do.
Those in the chain of command were simply following his orders. But he is basically telling everyone, all of his generals, all of the professional staff of the Department of Defense, that I'm going to save myself if things get tough. And that's just devastating for American national security.
Here we go.
I think it's healthy, at the very least, that Hegseth realizes, like, oops, I got to throw somebody else under the bus. It's healthy that there's a bus coming. Yeah. Let's put it that way. And here is Senator Chuck Schumer.
Driving that bus. And he's got a hammer, and he is going to drop that hammer on somebody.
Folks, here's Chuck Schumer laying down the law.
You called on Hegseth to release the full tapes of the attack. We heard earlier in the show Chairman Wicker saying that he is seeking those tapes as well. What sort of action are Democrats prepared to take to try to make
Pause it for 1 second. What sort of action are Democrats prepared to take? Oh, step back, Jake Tapper. You're about to find out.
Jason Bourne.
Yeah. I'll tell you what kind of actions the Democrats are about to take. Just go back just a little bit so we can hear Jake Tapper ask that question again. So the people can remember, the question is, what action are Democrats going to take?
Seeking those tapes as well. What sort of action are Democrats prepared to take to try to make this happen, to getting those tapes?
Well, we hope that we can bring before the committees, bipartisan, as you said,
Senator Wicker has been very much involved here, and get the top military people to testify, and we hope that they will release the tapes. You know, Hegseth is hiding something here, and he's known to be a liar.
Dude, I'm sorry. How could you not believe in controlled opposition when you listen to this shit?
No validity, and today the White House directly
I think there might be something afoot here.
And if he has nothing to hide, if he said he did,
we're gonna look into it. I swear.
Violated, release the tapes.
Took the finger out.
He does have something to hide, so he's not going to release the tapes. What are you going to do about it?
Well, he's a liar. He's a liar, and we're going to say we hope you release the tapes. In fact, we hope we can get someone to testify. So look out, Jake Tapper. There's a new hopeful sheriff in town. We hope this is gonna happen.
Chuck's driving that bus, but it's
My
just
God,
under the speed.
I hate these things, dude.
I hope to drive the bus. I'm hoping the bus gets here and there's gas in it and
slowing down the bus.
Slowing down the bus.
Hitting the
We
brakes
hope
on the bus.
We're gonna be super tough about this.
Shifting down to first gear on
Right,
the
no,
bus.
we're leaving the bus in neutral because that's bipartisanship, okay?
Idling forward.
Momentum.
You don't want to be partisan about
The bus is idling forward.
We're going to very ambitiously hope.
I'm going to work with this hill and hope I can roll up
We've
it.
hit a short bump and now we've stopped moving forward.
You know, we don't want to pick sides between potential and kinetic energy. We just want
Okay, we're gonna.
That's called bipartisanship.
That's exactly right. That's why we're in neutral, baby.
Let me add to that, Jake. We're gonna pray and hope. Hope and prayers. That's
Oh,
what we're
come
gonna
on.
do. Yep.
I had so much hope and prayer in that.
Jake, are you familiar with dandelions?
Is it good?
You know that they become floaty things.
Yes.
But have you ever blown on one and made a wish beforehand? That's what I'm going to do.
Oh, that's so...
Double down.
That's so beautiful.
Double down.
Good contrast with Chris Murphy, I think. Are you still going?
Ah,
Wait,
fuck me.
No, go ahead.
Okay,
The heat is
sorry.
on them when they do this.
Good contrast with Chris Murphy, who I can't look at you. It's distracting. Damn it! What? God damn it! Just go.
Come on.
Chris Murphy.
Oh, fuck.
Well, why don't you get your big buddy Chris Murphy to help you?
Go ahead, promote Chris Murphy.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I forget. I
Go
forget.
ahead.
So much better than Chuck.
Okay, yeah, well, he doesn't.
This could have been the point that you changed the world
Here's
forever.
the problem. Chris Murphy,
Yeah.
not hopeful.
Right. Not hopeful enough.
No.
Not on board with the dandelion
no, it's not,
thing.
He's not hopeful.
It is.
I'm not taking these off.
Yeah, okay.
Nope.
All right. Well, all right. Let me turn to Brian.
Comedy.
Brian, as a former military man, is
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, thank you for showing me such respect. Is it a little concerning that Pete Hegseth is throwing his second
Dude, I'm never gonna
command
beat
on
this. I
this
swear to
early
God.
admiral-
I swear to
admiral
God,
under
it's
the
over.
bus?
It's over
'Cause,
for
like,
me.
I'm not trying to live out here, but it is
I
pretty
feel bad.
bad if the top members of the Department of Defense or like the military don't have any faith that their leader is going to have their back.
Well, we hope
I haven't been trying to use spells
that
at
they
all.
do have faith.
I don't think this is helping.
That's good to know.
Are you talking about the sanctity of the chain of command?
I'm not trying to be a lib about it, but like in terms of basic functioning of our military, it feels pretty rudimentary.
It does, but it also feels like nothing new.
Yeah, it's not the Department of War.
Sorry.
All
I
right.
want to have your back.
Yeah, well,
But the military is not the most honorable organization.
I get it, but throwing him onto the bus in public?
We hope it's honorable.
Yeah.
As the head of the Department of War, I like to make it clear that I stand behind whoever the buck stops.
Gotta use more spells.
It really is. I love the phrasing of like he is a real patriot. And when he did this, when he did it with the best of intentions,
Right.
Nobody's going to tell me otherwise, okay?
Had no idea what he was doing, but I support it now.
If you're coming after this guy, you're going to have to know that I stand behind him. Well behind him. Like, without, like at least 20 yards behind him.
Yeah. You're gonna have to come at him like that. You're gonna have to take it up with him.
Yep.
Are you telling me the alcoholic with like 15 wives and 40 mistresses doesn't know how to take responsibility for his actions?
No.
Yeah, like the guy who literally, people forget this, his mom wrote a letter saying that I can't trust you.
You're an abuser of women.
I mean, this is the tweet he put out, just for folks who don't know what we're talking about.
I'm going to do this in a tough voice. Let's make one thing crystal clear. Admiral Mitch Bradley is an American hero, a true professional, and has my 100% support. I stand by him and the decisions he has made. Specifically on September 2nd, the mission, and all others since.
Slippery Pete.
Every single decision he may have made that may have been war crimes that he made, decisions that he made that I was not aware of until this time.
Yeah.
I support at least him. I stand by it.
America's fortunate to have.
Okay, it's fine. If I don't make this tonight, I'm gonna switch to something else and I'll try it tomorrow. It's fine.
And what he means
I'm getting a little bit.
We're behind them, using them as human shields.
Exactly.
I'll throw a yoga mat down before I throw you under the bus.
Diminishing returns on prize here. That's
we literally have grabbed the backs of and putting them right in front of us.
Manipulating them to make sure they're right in front of us.
But I just also, so you were there, dude, but you didn't issue any orders. You just gave a general.
I had my popcorn out.
You just gave a general vibe that you'd be cool with Admiral Bradley. He's a hands-off manager, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, like
I trust you.
Yeah.
Even if you take him at his word, like actually your role should be to step in and say, hey, let's not do the war crimes thing.
But isn't that the fascists? That's all they're doing, this administration,
it's passing the buck.
Passing the buck. They're both the strongest men in the world, and they're out of central casting like Pete Hegseth, but also so weak and ineffective that they can't control their underlings. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I was just watching. I was a spectator.
I'm Widow Petey.
I'm innocent.
Yeah.
I had front row seats. What do you want me to do? I was getting popcorn.
I was grabbing a brew.
Yeah, right.
I was looking for a can opener, or a bottle opener.
Oh shit! You already blew it up. I go out for one beer.
You guys should have paused it.
Come on, guys. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Oh.
We played yesterday, like when Donald Trump was like full on sleeping, right? We played that. You have to know that everybody is aware at the table. That
Oh,
Trump
come
keeps falling
on!
asleep.
Okay, no,
They're
it's over for
concerned
me.
about it, but
Right.
nobody can say anything.
Actually,
Nobody's
I
gonna
have
be
to keep
the
going.
person
I'm
to
not.
go
I'm
like,
not.
Mr. President, you're sleeping.
I hate this game.
And so here you see Hegseth, like, he's going to be very animated.
Was it helping?
As he
Which one was
is
helping more?
trying to, as he's throwing his admiral around under the bus. He's 100% supportive
both
of the
do the
thing that he
same thing.
didn't do.
I wasn't
it's
actually
not
using
his
spells then.
responsibility.
I wish I could take
credit.
credit.
Listen, exactly. I wish the buck stopped here, but unfortunately he didn't. So, but here he is explaining. And look, for all you people who have never been in the Situation Room, you have no idea how crazy it is in there when you have the full force of the U.S.
it's like 3
military
a.m.
bearing down on one fishing boat in the Caribbean. Go ahead.
Those are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on four-motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that a lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do.
Pause.
So I didn't.
Okay. Now, listen, I don't get much sleep, and so I am so there with Trump, falling asleep, like, and he does it in a second.
When his eyes are open
And
here, it's like
you can see
Yeah.
where he feels himself like I'm falling, I'm catching it.
Yeah,
He
dude.
has to jerk his head back up. Like, his eyes are open 1 second, and then he's just like asleep the next second. Now, remember, and to be fair, he was doing that tweet storm at
Yes.
what, midnight?
Yeah,
Something like that. It was a 2-hour tweet storm.
A 2-hour tweet storm, and so he clearly could not sleep. And somebody had to take the phone away from him. It's not like he fell asleep with the phone in his hand. Somebody had to take the phone. He had to calm down.
Susie.
This is a full half-minute dose.
Susie limits my screen time.
Okay, so
Susie said I was good. I could be on Truth Social for 2 hours.
so you have to. I cleaned my room, and so I get to go on Truth Social. You have to both listen to Hegseth worm his way around. Now, understand, Hegseth is huddled with his attorney before he's giving this. Yeah. So everything is like, he's saying, like, you can hear him saying, I volunteered to take responsibility for this, even though I don't really have it. And I did it the first couple of times, not
I'm
the
not
subsequent
doing it
times.
anymore.
But I didn't do
for
it all,
some reason.
And so
why have I changed tax?
I am trying to explain to you why it appears like I am in charge, but in that very moment I was not. But I'm doing it in a very roundabout way. Meanwhile, Trump is just like, okay.
Another side note is Pete also has to cover up his own drink from himself. That's how dangerous he is.
Oh, yeah.
No, I've had enough for today.
Right.
It's noon.
You'd think you could stay awake if your Department of War head is trying to defend himself from war crimes.
Boring.
Own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case.
Oh, come on.
A lot of people provide information.
Watch his
I watched
eyes.
that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things.
There it is.
I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat. All
right, pause it for a second. Just go back a frame. You can see he has got this piece of paper. He is trying to make it look like he's speaking contemporaneously, but there are specific words that his lawyer has told him he should be saying, and you can see him glance down to his paper to get it. Go back just about 20 seconds. Watch him correct. When the word correct, it's down there. He is being coached what to say. Correct is just an opinion, right? Like, I don't know the intricacies of this, but his lawyer definitely has a theory as to how he's going to protect himself. And so he is looking down at his paper as he's addressing everybody to make sure that he's saying the exact words that his lawyer has told him to say.
Yep, color in the lines. Pete.
Watch it.
Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to the next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do.
Made that.
And by the way,
he had the authority.
Which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. Eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So pause it for a second now. They keep referring to eliminate the threat as if these two guys floating in the Caribbean Sea represent a threat to the United States. Now, here's the thing that's going to be very hard for them to argue if we get a proper prosecution of them. If the threat is the transport of the drugs were sunk. These two men did not represent a threat.
Right, with the double tap. Say, even again, like this is the problem for them. When you grant their insane theory, the double tap, the return to kill the survivors, is legally indefensible even when you accept their premise that
it's not rules of engagement.
Already at war, right. In fact, it's literally illegal and codified in the United States not to conduct military operations in a way that is explicitly designed to say that there's no survivors.
They tried Nazis for this exact same thing.
Oh yeah,
Just
right.
Nazis tried Nazis for this thing.
Yeah.
There's a historical example of it. Just Security's Ryan Goodman pointed this out. There was the Peleus World War II war crimes trial. There was 12 survivors on a Greek steamer, and when the vessel was sunk, and a Nazi naval officer essentially ordered for that vessel to be sunk, and and then to kill those survivors. And then there were 5 German officers who were convicted of war crimes in reaction to that. And like we've talked a little bit about how the DHS tweets out things that are meant to be Nazi insignia. They're meant to, like, what, the 14 letters or whatever. Yeah, I mean, they've done this multiple times. And then the remigration
I hate those
thing
things.
that we covered earlier this week, which is just like
no
fascist
sharp
rhetoric.
Yeah.
I think that Stephen Miller literally lifts from Goebbels, right? That's how you say it. Goebbels. I never know why.
No, it's Goebbels.
And I genuinely think it's
like an English
to
accent.
lift historical examples from the Nazis and use them in the modern day.
They did it well.
It sounds like an R because of the way the British pronounced it.
This is the
Goebbels.
Hegseth is going to explain something that none of you penciled neck geeks can understand.
Cushioned.
To the American people, we will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. And it was exploded in fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol.
So Meta's AI chief, Yang LeCun, just released a new paper that could genuinely end the era of large language models for true human-level intelligence. And honestly, we need to talk about this right now. I mean, LeCun is one of the 3 literal godfathers of AI, and while the rest of the world is distracted by the hype, he has essentially dropped a nuclear bomb on the industry with this new architecture called VJEPA, which fundamentally challenges everything we think we know about how machines should learn. Because honestly, the entire internet is completely obsessing with the wrong thing. Everyone is looking at OpenAI, everyone is looking at the new Gemini updates, everyone is looking at the stock prices of Nvidia. But while the whole world has been hypnotized by the bigger is better narrative, Yang LeCun, who is literally one of the godfathers of deep learning, the guy who essentially invented the convolutional neural networks that allow computers to see, has just dropped a paper that fundamentally challenges the trajectory of the entire industry. He released this new architecture called VJEPA, and if you actually sit down and read the math in this paper, which I've been doing for the last 48 hours straight, it suggests that the era of the large language model, the era of reasoning in tokens, might be hitting a concrete wall.
Never watched anything
I mean,
from before.
essentially, we've been told for 2 years that if we just feed a model more
That had like a
data
Johnny
and give it
Harris
more
vibe to
GPUs,
when I heard
magic
that.
happens. But this paper is the first real, tangible proof that we might be driving 100 miles an hour down a dead-end street. Because, and this is the crazy part, LeCun is betting everything on the idea that language is actually a distraction from true intelligence. Now, to understand why this is such a massive deal, we have to talk about the System 1 versus System 2 problem, because this is the philosophical core of the entire debate. If you've ever read
I
Daniel
love the
Kahneman's
fast
work, you know
heal.
that the human brain basically has two modes. System 1 is fast, it's instinctive. It's what happens when someone throws a ball at your face and you duck without thinking, or when you finish the sentence bread and with butter. It's a reflex. And honestly, if we're being real with ourselves, that's exactly what LLMs are doing. It's an autocomplete machine on steroids. It doesn't stop to think, it doesn't plan, it doesn't simulate the future. It just statistically predicts the next word based on the last word flowing from left to right.
The Chinese
never
room.
looking
I hope
back.
they talk about the Chinese
I know
room.
what a
Nobody
lot of
talks
you
about
are
the Chinese
screaming
room.
at your screens right now, but wait, we have GPT-5, we have Gemini 3 Ultra. We've been using these models for months. Aren't they basically doing this already?
Every time I've tried to
But-
explain to
and
somebody
this is
what the
part
Chinese
that
room is, they
genuinely
suddenly understand how
frustrating. If you
AI
look at
works
the
better,
actual
and like
architecture
nobody
laws,
talks about
it's
it. Really
fundamentally
frustrating.
not true. Because even though GPT-5 is massive, and even though it feels like magic compared to what we had 2 years ago, it's still thinking in tokens. It's still, at its core, trapped in System 1 thinking, which means it's just a hyper-advanced, incredibly charming autocomplete machine that's reacting to your prompts rather than a deliberate System 2 reasoner that's actually planning and understanding the physics of the world before it speaks. But System 2, and this is what we actually need for AGI, is slow, deliberate, logical thinking. It's what you do when you're trying to park a car in a tight spot or solve a math problem. You simulate the outcome in your head before you act. And the uncomfortable reality that this paper highlights is that you simply can't scale a System 1 reflex into a System 2 reasoner. No matter how many trillions of parameters you add, you can make the reflex better, you can make it sound smarter, but you can't make it think. So this brings us to the actual architecture of VJEPA, which stands for Vision, Language, Joint Embedding, Predictive Architecture. The concept is genuinely revolutionary because it stops trying to be generative. If you look at how a standard vision model works today, they're operating in pixel space. If I show the model of dog jumping over a fence, the AI has to painstakingly predict every single pixel, the color of the fur, the shadow on the grass, the light hitting the fence. That's incredibly expensive computationally, but it's also why the videos are hallucinations. The AI is so obsessed with painting the pixels that it forgets the physics. It forgets that a dog has 4 legs, not 5. It forgets that a fence is solid. But VJEPA operates in latent space, or semantic space, which basically means it predicts the meaning, not the raw data. So we need to actually pull up figure 2 from the paper.
Yeah, and this would always be a problem with people that like thought that this was how they would defeat like the AI arguments. That's never been how.
Why the transformer era might
It's always
be
going to
over.
beat like the like.
I mean,
you know,
honestly,
like not
looking
enough
at this
fingers
chart is
problem.
like looking at the
Or
blueprint
too
for
many
a
fingers
completely
problem.
different kind of brain. If you look at the left side of the image under VJEPA architecture, this is where the magic or the trick, depending on how cynical you are, actually happens. You see these 2 inputs at the bottom, the vision input and the textual query. These get fed into the predictor, which is ironically using Llama 3 transformer layers. But, and this is the part that fundamentally changes the game, look at what the predictor is actually trying to hit. It's not trying to predict the next word. It's trying to predict this thing right here labeled SY target embedding. Basically, instead of asking the AI to write an essay about the video, the architecture uses a separate Y encoder, which they're using Google's Gemma for remarkably, to create a thought bubble of what the answer should be. The VJEPA model then tries to match that thought bubble mathematically. It's like, essentially, instead of teaching a child to speak, you're teaching them to use telepathy to match the concept in your head. It skips the words entirely during the heavy thinking phase. Now,
Damn it, dude,
shift
I'm
your
trying to
eyes
hit
to the
just the
right side of the
fucking-
chart, specifically where it says
Damn it, I'm
selective
fucked.
decoding.
Get through
This
this right-
dashed
at
line
least
right
not
here is the smoking gun. In a normal GPT-4 LLM, the decoder, the part that speaks English, is the main event. You can't separate the thinking from the talking, but look at this architecture. The Y decoder is just tacked on at the end. It's completely optional. This proves the thesis. The model does all its reasoning, all its classification, and all its video understanding in that latent space in the middle, and it only activates the decoder if you specifically ask it to describe this video in 1 sentence. It treats language as just another utility, like a printer, rather than the operating system itself. That's a massive, massive architectural shift that explains why it's so much more efficient. It's not running the printer when it's trying to solve a math problem. Well, the fundamental idea is that current AI models are incredibly wasteful. You've probably seen those videos where given a half-finished image, it's trying to predict the next set of pixels. Basically, it's playing a dumb guessing game, filling in the same information over and over again, billions of times. But the VL-JEPA architecture is designed
Oh,
differently.
no way. Okay.
It looks at an image
I'm not
frame,
gonna
and
bend now.
instead of predicting pixels, it tries to predict what happens next in an abstract